Penang lawyer, is engraved James Mortimer, MRCS, from his friend the CCH 1884. I think that Dr. Mortimer is a successful elderly medical man, well esteemed since those who know him give him this mark of their appreciation.
Yeah, good, excellent.
I think also that the probability is in favour of his being a country practitioner who does a great deal of his visiting on foot.
Why so?
Because the stick, though originally very handsome, has been so knocked about that you can hardly imagine a town practitioner carrying it. The thick iron ferrule is worn down, so it is evident that he's done a great amount of walking with it.
Perfectly sound.
Then again, there is the friends of the CCH. I should guess that to be the something hunt, the local hunt to whose members he has possibly given some surgical assistance, and which has made him a small presentation in return.
Really, Watson, you do excel yourself. I'm bound to say that in all the accounts which you've been so good as to aid me in my own small achievements, you have yourself habitually underrated your own abilities, though you're not luminous. You are a conductor of light. Some people, without possessing it, have a remarkable power of stimulating it. And that, my dear friend, is forever in your grasp. Interesting, though elementary, there certainly are a few indications upon the stick.
Has anything escaped me? I trust there is nothing of consequence which I have overlooked.
I'm afraid, my dear friend, most of your conclusions were erroneous. In saying that you stimulated me, I meant to be frank that in noting your fallacies, I'm occasionally guided towards the truth. Though you're not so far off, the man is a country practitioner and he does walk a great deal.
Then I was right.
To that extent.
That was all the information that I incited.
So I would suggest a presentation to a doctor would more likely come from a hospital than that of a hunt. And when the initial CC are placed, the hospital words Charing Cross very naturally suggest themselves.
Maybe right.
Probability lies in that direction. And now we can take this as a working hypothesis and we have a fresh basis on which to start our construction of this unknown visitor.
Well then, supposing that CCH does stand for Charing Cross Hospital, what further inferences may we draw?
You know my method, Watson. Apply them.
I can only think of the obvious conclusion that the man has practiced in town before going to the country.
Watson, I think we may venture a little farther than this. Look at it in this light. On what occasion would a presentation be made? When would his friends unite to give him this pledge of their goodwill? It was obviously when Dr. Mortimer left his London practice to set up his own. So we know a presentation has been made. Is it then stretching our inference to say that the presentation be made on occasion of this change?
Certainly seems probable.
Yeah, and now you can observe that he could not have been on the staff of the hospital. It's only a man well established in a London career would hold such a position. What was he then? If he was in the hospital but not on the staff, he could have only been a house surgeon, house physician, senior student at best. And he left 5 years ago. The date is on the stick. So, Watson, here you have your brave middle-aged family practitioner who vanishes into thin air. There emerges a young, amiable, unambitious, and absent-minded fellow who is possessor of a favourite dog that I would suggest being larger than a terrier, smaller than a mastiff. Incredible. Do you find something about my deductions incredible?
Not in the slightest. As for the latter part, I have no means of checking you, but at least it is not difficult to find out a few particulars about the man's age and professional career. My medical directory. There are several Mortimers, but only one who can be our visitor. Ah, here we go. Mortimer James, MRCS, 1882, Brimton, Dartmoor, Devon. House surgeon from 1882 to 1884 at Charing Cross Hospital. Winner of the Jackson Prize in comparative pathology with an essay titled Is Disease Reversion? Corresponding member of the Swedish Pathological Society, author of Some Freaks of Atavism, Lancet 1882. Do we progress?
No mention of that local hunt, Bolton, but a country practitioner, as you very astutely observed. Now, if you remember correctly, the adjectives I used were amiable, unambitious, and absent-minded. It's in my opinion that there is only an amiable man in this world who receives
God you know about his dog?
A dog is in the habit of carrying the stick behind its master. So being a heavy stick, the dog is gripped tightly by the middle. The teeth marks are plainly visible. Being a heavy stick, he's gripped it, and you'll notice the dog's jaw, as evident by these marks, is too big in my opinion to be that of a terrier, not big enough to be that of a mastiff. The dog is a light-coloured, curly-haired spaniel with a red collar.
My dear fellow, how can you possibly know that?
Dr. Mortimer is outside, tying his dog up, and he'll be at our door in 38 seconds.
38
He'll wipe his
seconds?
feet, but only on the second call, not mindful about it. He'll then head straight up at a slightly slower pace, where he will recount several events to himself in which allowed him to come here last night and again today. 17 steps for a man of his build will take exactly 11 seconds to climb. He'll then pause in the corner of the corridor to reassure himself that he is in fact in the right place, leaving him exactly 9 seconds to approach the door. Hey, Watson, this man is a professional brother. Presence may be of assistance to him. What does Dr. James Mortimer, man of science, ask of Sherlock Holmes, specialist in crime? Don't stand there, Watson, let him in.
Wasn't sure that I left it here in the shipping office. I'll not lose this stick for the world.
It's a present, I see,
Yes, sir.
from Charing Cross Hospital.
Yes, sir. From one or two friends there on the occasion. Why was it bad?
You've disarranged our little deduction. Your marriage, you say?
Yes, sir, I'm married. And so left the hospital with it. All hopes of a consulting practice. It was necessary to make a home of my own.
Come, we're not so far wrong. And now Dr. James Mortimer,
Mister. It's Mr. Wolf. A humble MRC.
a man of precise mind, evidently.
Yes, a dabbler in science. Picker up of shells on the shores of the great unknown ocean. May I presume this is Sherlock Holmes?
No, this is my friend Dr. John.
My apologies. I took you for deductive. Pleasure to meet you, sir. I have heard your name mentioned in connection with that of your friend. You know, I'd hardly expected so jolly coca-phallic a skull, or such well-marked supraorbital development. Would you have any objection to my running my finger along your parietal fissure? It's not my intention to be fulsome, but your skull, sir, a cast of it until the original is available, would be an ornament in any anthropological museum. It's not my intention to be fulsome, but I confess that I covet your skull. You see, I too am of the same deductive nature, at least in the field of chronology.
Yet you incorrectly deduced which of us was Sherlock Holmes.
And you incorrectly concluded the origin of his cane, but what of that matter?
I see, Dr. Mortimer, that you are enthusiastic in your line of thought, as I am in mine. I notice from your forefinger that you roll your own cigarettes. Have no hesitation in lighting them. And now I trust that it is not for the mere inquiry of examining our skulls that you wish to consult me today.
No, sir, no, though I'm happy to have had the opportunity of doing that as well. I came to you, sir, because I realised that I myself am an unpractical man, because I've been confronted with the most serious and extraordinary problem. Recognising as I do that you are, of course, the second highest expert in Europe.
Hey, excuse you said second highest.
Yeah.
May I inquire who has the honour to be the first?
Well, the works of Monsieur Bertillon must always appeal strongly.
Then I best implore you to consult him. Thank you for saying so.
Speaking precisely scientifically, he is, of course, the first, but as a man of practical affairs, I acknowledge, sir, that you stand alone. I trust I've not inadvertently lost your favour.
A little. And now, Dr. Mortimer, I would think it wise if without further ado, tell me the exact nature of the problem it is which you wish to consult.
I have in my pocket here a manuscript.
I observed it as you entered the room.
It is an old manuscript.
The early 18th century. I put it at 1730.
The exact date is 1742, but how could you
I don't
possibly...
suppose you've read my little monograph
This family paper was committed by care by Sir Charles Baskervilles. I can say that I was his personal friend as well. His sudden death in Hampshire Collins must excite. He was a strong-minded man, sir, shrewd, practical, and as unimaginative as I am. Yet he was prepared for just such an end that did eventually overtake him.
You will observe, Watson, the alternate use of the long essence against the short was one of the several indications which allowed you to fix a date.
It's to be a statement of some sort.
Yes, it's a certain statement of a legend which runs in the Baskervilles family. You would just...
I trust, Dr. Mortimer, it's more of a practical and modern issue which you wish to consult me. I have no time wasting it on fairies and ghouls.
A most modern, practical, and pressing matter, Mr. Holmes. A matter which began unfolding not 24 hours ago, and must be decided within the next 24 hours. The manuscript is short, however, and with your permission, I shall read it.
I will, in the least, listen.
Of the origin of the Hound of the Baskervilles, there have been many statements. Yet, as I come in a direct line from Hugo Baskerville, as I had the story from my father, who also had it from his, I've set it down with all belief that it occurred even as it's here set forth. It came to pass that one Michaelmas Eve, this Hugo Baskerville, with 5 or 6 of his idle and wicked companions, in mask and wolfskin as they often did, stole down into the local villages. They were known as the Hounds. Heavy in drink and bent on malevolency, they abducted from the outskirts a young gypsy maiden by the name of Aramine Doyle. They returned to a shack secreted deep in the miry moors, and on that night they did something unspeakable to that maiden, things that secured their station in the lowest pit of hell. They took her maidenhood. When the men, if they may be called men, had done, the maid drew her remaining stamina and fled, pursued closely by her former captors. Through the moors she sprinted, till Hugo Baskerville unleashed his loyal pet Hound to take up the chase. Only minutes later, the hounds found the dog, ripping chunks of flesh from the girl's throat. Though the man had committed similarly monster acts before, this one sat uneasy with them, and it wasn't long before they drew to consensus that the corpse should be thrown to the depths of an acidic marsh. It's the early hours of that morning the men grew ill at ease. An unbearable sorrow gripped them. It appeared before them, and she spake thus.
You curse who in the terror of the night steal to mortalize the feeble state of man. You shall feel this wrath. Here the hounds of hell shall now taste your flesh. Canis et circa, qui vocavo. Canis o tempo cale, tibi conmere est. Maledicite, et quisca. Abominatio sunt popula, et gustus canis.
Why did you stop at me?
I have a more excruciating penance for you, Hugo Baskerville. These men have been taken by the hounds of hell, but for you I have no worse than most vicious punition. Tormentus infinitus odius, nulligia inventia bestia perfecta tormentus et flagellus lucus praenuntis, hunc malum et scabium composita continuum est. You shall not pay for your crime this day, but your sons and theirs shall forever now be haunted by the devil's hound. It shall take thee
when it sees occasion, and never again shall you rest easy. Such is the tale of the coming of the hound, which is said to have plagued the family so sorely ever since. If I have set it down, it is because that which is clearly known had less terror than that which is but hint at or guessed. Nor can it be denied that many of the family have been unhappy in their deaths, which have been sudden, bloody, and mysterious. Yet may we shelter ourselves in the infinite goodness of Providence, which would not forever punish the innocent beyond that 3rd or 4th generation which is threatened in Holy Writ. And to that Providence I hereby commend you, and I counsel you by way of caution to forbear from crossing the moor in those dark hours when the powers of evil are exalted. This from Roger Baskerville, son of the accursed Sir Henry Baskerville. Well, you don't find it interesting?
you a collector of fairy tales?
Oh, come now, Mr. Holmes. Oh, I'll give you something a little more recent. This is the Devon County Chronicle of how some of the facts elicited at the death of Sir Charles.
So another Baskerville is dead.
Indeed.
Sir Charles Baskerville, being himself childless, openly expressed desire that the whole countryside should, within his own lifetime, profit his good fortune, and many will have personal reasons for bewailing his untimely end. He had few enemies.
He had no enemies.
The circumstances connected with the death of Sir Charles cannot be said to have been entirely cleared up by the inquest, but at least enough has been done to dispose of the rumours which local superstition has given rise. There is no reason whatsoever to suspect him or imagine the death could come from any but natural causes. Barrymore, butler to Sir Charles, proved evidence that tends to show that Sir Charles's death had at some time been impaired, points especially to some affection of the heart, manifesting itself in changes of colour, breathlessness, acute attacks of nervous depression. Dr. James Mortimer, the friend and medical attendant of the deceased, had given evidence to the same effect.
Dr. Mortimer, there is nothing curious about this case. By your own admission, he died of natural causes. These are the public facts, Mr. Holmes, eliciting the death of Sir Charles.
I must thank you for drawing my attention to a case which certainly has some features of interest. I do observe recalling a Telegraph article at the time, but I was heavily involved with my Vatican cameos in my anxiety to oblige the Pope. I lost touch with several interesting English cases. This article, you say, contains all of the public facts.
It does.
Let me have the private one.
In doing so, Mr. Holmes, I'm confiding in you which I've not confided into anyone else. My reason for withholding this information from the coroner's inquiry is that a man of science shrinks to put himself in the place of a popular superstition. Also, if anything were done to increase Baskerville Hall's already rather grim reputation, the hall would certainly remain untenanted. For those reasons, I've told rather less than I knew, but now I see no reason why I shouldn't be perfectly frank. Now, the moor is very sparsely inhabited, and so those who live there are thrown very much together. For that reason, I saw a good deal of Sir Charles, with the exception of Mr. Franklin of Laughter Hall and Mr. Stapleton, the naturalist. The chance of Sir Charles's illness brought us together, and a community of interest in science kept us so. He was honestly convinced that some demon was after him, some horror from his family's past. His nervous system was strained to the breaking point, his heart on the brink of collapse. He had asked me many a time whether on any of my medical journeys at night had I heard or seen the baying of such a hound. I can well remember one night. I travelled to Baskerville Hall, and I descended from my gig to see him standing there at the hall gate, and his eyes were fixed upon something over my shoulder, the eyes of absolute horror. I turned around, whisked, to see what I gathered to be a large black car passing at the head of the drive. I was compelled to go down to the spot and examine, but when I got there, it was gone. This event played a particularly heavy effect upon his mind, and it was then that he shared this legend with me, which I read to you when I first came. It was under my impression that Sir Charles was about to go to London. I thought that a few weeks among the distractions of town would send him back a new man. Mr. Stapleton, a mutual friend, was of the same opinion. But the last instant came this terrible catastrophe. On the night of Sir Charles's death, Barrymore the butler sent Perkins the groom out on horseback to him. I was sitting up late, so I was able to be there within an hour of the event, and I corroborated all of the facts mentioned at the coroner's inquest. I walked from the hall to the gate. The gate he had strangely locked behind him, and from there I made my way out onto the moor to examine the body. Now Sir Charles laid out, his arms out, and his fingers were dug into the ground. His features were so convulsed, could hardly have sworn to his identity. Now there's one thing mentioned by Barrymore at the inquest that is not entirely true. He said he did not observe any tracks, traces, or marks around the body of the lying deed. Some 20 yards off, but fresh. Clear.
Footprints.
Footprints.
A man's a woman.
Mr. Holmes, they were the footprints of a gigantic hound.
You interest me exceedingly. Tell me, you saw these footprints?
Oh, as clearly as I see you. What's more, it would seem to indicate that Sir Charles had tiptoed away from them.
And you said nothing.
Well, what was the use?
How was it that no one else saw them?
Well, there was some 20 yards from the body and no one gave him a second thought. I don't suppose I would have done had I not known this legend.
There are many sheepdogs on the moors.
Certainly, but this was no sheepdog.
Would you say it was large?
Well, enormous.
But it had not approached the body.
No,
What type of night was it?
damp and raw.
But not actually raining.
No.
What is the road beyond the gate like?
There is a line of old yew hedge, 12 feet high and impenetrable. There is a strip of grass, 8 feet broad on the far side.
Now tell me this, Doctor. When the marks you saw, were they on the path or on the grass?
I cannot recall. Yes, they were, I think.
Were they on the same side of the path as the grass?
Yes, they're on the same side of that as the gate.
And the gate, you say, was the gate closed?
Closed and padlocked.
How high was it?
4 feet?
Then anyone could have got over.
Well, I suppose.
And what
but
of the marks by the gate?
I did not see any.
Did you not examine?
Yes, I examined myself.
And what did you find?
It was a bit of a blur. Finding out an old friend had died, it was very confusing. There's one thing that I am sure of.
What is that?
Sir Charles had stood outside the gate waiting for 5 or 10 minutes.
How do you know that?
The ash had dropped twice from his cigar.
Watson, one thing has become deafeningly clear to me.
What's that?
That you and I have at all points misjudged this man. This is a colleague, Watson. A man after our own heart. And whether it's by will or some gift of heaven, you are able to observe much without noting you have done so. That is a very admirable quality. But now tell me, what of the mark?
He had left his own marks over that small patch of gravel. I could discern no others.
Dr. Mortimer, if only I had been there. It certainly is a case which presents immense opportunity for scientific exploit. You indeed have a lot to answer for.
Well, I couldn't call you in, Mr. Holmes, for the facts I've already elicited. Besides,
Why do you hesitate?
well, there is a realm in which the most acute and experienced of detectives is rendered helpless.
You mean supernatural?
I did not positively say
No,
so.
but you evidently think it.
Well, since this tragic event, there have been several occurrences which are hard to reconcile with the settled order of nature.
For example,
Before Sir Charles's death, 3 people saw a creature upon the moor, which corresponds with his Baskerville hound. How can it be any animal known to science? They all agree it was large, ghastly, luminous, and spectral. Now, I've cross-examined these men. One's a farrier, another a moorland farmer, another a hard-headed countryman. I tell you, sir, there is a reign of terror in the district, and it's a hardy man who will go out upon the moor at night.
and you, Dr. Mortimer, a trained man of science, believe in the supernatural.
I do not know what.
Yet you must admit the footprint is material.
Oh yes, the hound may be material enough to tug out a man's throat, yet he was diabolical as well.
I see you have gone quite over to the side of the supernaturalist. Now tell me this, Dr. Mortimer. If you hold these views, why do you come to consult me at all? You say in the same breath it is useless to investigate Sir Charles's death, yet you desire me to do it.
I did not say I desired you to do it.
Then how can I assist you?
By telling me what I should do with Sir Henry Baskerville, who's due to arrive at Waterloo Station in, let's see here, 1/4 of an hour.
He being the heir.
Yes, we inquired for this young man and found he'd been farming in Canada. From all accounts, he seems to be an excellent fellow in every way.
There are no other claimants, I presume.
None. See, Sir Charles was the eldest of 3 brothers. The second was his father of the lad Henry. The third was Roger Baskerville. They say he came of the old masterful Baskerville strain. They also tell me he was the splitting image of the old family portrait of Hugo. However, he made England too hot to hold him, fled to Central America, and died there of yellow fever. Now tell me, Sir Henry will be here soon. What do I do with him?
Why should he not go to the home of his father?
Does it not seem obvious? Every Baskerville that goes there meets with an evil fate.
So the matter is this. In your opinion, There is a diabolical agency which makes Dartmoor an unsafe abode for a Baskerville. That's your opinion.
At least I might go the length of saying that there is evidence that this in fact may be so.
So, if your supernatural theory be correct, surely this diabolical agency could work its evil as easily here in London as it could in Devonshire. I mean, a devil with merely local powers is too inconceivable a thing.
So my understanding is this, that you think the young man will be as safe in Devonshire as in London. Well, he'll be here very soon. What do you suggest?
I suggest, Dr. Mortimer, that you call off your spaniel which has been scratching at my door, and you say none of this to Sir Henry until I've made up my mind on the matter.
Well, how long will it take you to make up your mind?
A few moments in the man's presence should do. One more thing, Dr. Mortimer. You say several people saw this apparition on the moor before Sir Charles's death.
Why, yes, 3 people did.
Did any see it after?
Well, no.
Very good. Well, your dog.
Ah, of course.
Dartmoor must be a wild place.
It certainly is a worthy one, Watson. If the devil did desire to have a hand in the affairs
I
of men,
believe you're not inclined to a supernatural explanation.
if there are 2 questions on the outset. The first is whether any crime has been committed at all. The second is, what is the crime? How was it committed? If we take Dr. Mortimer's supernatural theory to be correct, then we have an end to our investigation. But we need to explore every other hypothesis before we come onto this one. Watson, have you turned the case over in your mind?
Yes, I have.
What do you make of it?
It's very bewildering, I must say.
It certainly does have a character of its own. The change in Sir Charles's footprints, what do you make of that?
Mortimer said that the man had walked on tiptoe on the moor.
Why should a man walk on tiptoe?
What then?
He was running. He was running desperately, running for his life, running until his heart burst and he fell flat upon his face.
Running from what?
Well, there lies our problem. The evidence shows that the man was crazed with fear ever before he began to run.
How can you say that?
I assume that the cause of his fears came from across the moor. Only a man who had lost his wits would run away from the house instead of towards it. He ran with cries of help in the direction where help was least likely to be. But then again, who was he waiting for that night? Why was he waiting beyond the gate rather than inside his own home?
You think he was waiting for someone?
The man was elderly and infirm. Now, we can understand him taking an evening stroll, but no. That night he waited there. 5 or 10 minutes, as Dr. Mortimer very cleverly deduced from that cigar act.
Perhaps he went out every evening.
No, I find it difficult to think that he went on the moor every evening. No, on the contrary. No, the evidence shows that he avoided the moor. It wasn't that night he waited there. It was the night before his arrival to London. It begins to be very peculiar.
What is?
A man down there talking to Mortimer can be no other than Sir Henry Baskerville.
I suppose you're right.
Look approximately 12 feet behind him.
I see.
No, not a word of this, Watson. Surprise is key.
Of course.
I'm trusting you with this, Watson. In this world, there are so few good men left, and those who are seldom have the right to exercise their virtue.
This is Sir Henry Baskerville.
You are very good to come, Sir Henry.
Well, thank you, Mr. Holmes. And the strange part is that my friend had suggested coming to see you this morning. Well, I should have come on my own accord. It's down to say that you're a man that thinks out little problems, and I've had one this morning, the one's more thinking than I can afford.
Yes, pray take a seat, Sir Henry. Am I correct in thinking you have had some remarkable experience since you've arrived in London this morning?
Well, nothing of great importance, only a joke, as like as not.
Before you delve too deeply into your tale, there's a matter that Watson and I would like to explore. Do you have any friends here in London?
None that I know of.
Perhaps you could tell us who this is.
Hey, I demand to know what's going on.
Watson and I observed this man tailing you before you entered this building. Please take a seat. You mentioned something that was vexing you.
Yes, it was this letter. Well, you can call it a letter. I found it under the door of my hotel. You see, I'm staying at the Northumberland Hotel. I was only there to deposit my luggage before coming here. It's bothered me all the way.
Who knew you were staying at the Northumberland Hotel?
No one could have known. We only decided after I met Dr. Mortimer.
Surely Dr. Mortimer was already staying there.
No, I'd been staying with a friend. There was no possible indication we intended to go to this hotel.
Someone is deeply interested in your movements, Sir Henry. If you value your life or your reason, keep away from the moor. All taken from paper clippings, apart from the word moor, which is scrawled in pen.
And perhaps you can tell me, Mr. Holmes, what in thunder that's meant to mean. Who is it that's taken so much interest in my affairs?
You must admit, Dr. Mortimer, there is nothing supernatural about this.
No, but might very well come from someone who believes the business is supernatural.
What business? It appears to me that you two know more about my affairs than I do.
I beg you will know more than us before the day is out. If we were confine ourselves with this letter, which must have been put together and posted yesterday evening, permit me to give you an article from the Capital of Free Trade. You may be cajoled into imagining that your own special trade or your own industry will be encouraged by your protective tariff. But it stands to reason that such legislation must, in the long run, keep away wealth from the country, diminishing the value of our imports and lower the general conditions of life in this country. What do you make of that? That's a very interesting sentiment, don't you think?
I confess I don't know much about tariffs or things of that kind, but it seems to me we're wandering off the trail as far as that note's concerned.
Oh, no. On the contrary, Sir Henry. I think we're very hot upon the trail. I fear you have not grasped the significance of this sentence.
I'm afraid I see no connection.
Yet a very clear connection exists. Look at this. You, your life, reason, keep away from the... Don't you see where these words have been taken?
Well, I'll be. Well, if that ain't smart.
And if any possible doubt remains, the fact that keep away and from the are cut out in one piece.
That's so.
Really, Mr. Holmes? It's the most extraordinary thing I've ever seen. Anyone could say that was taken from a paper, but that you should name which. And add what leading article it came from. It really is the most amazing thing. But how? How did you do it?
I trust, Dr. Mortimer, you could tell the difference between the skull of a man and that of a beast.
Oh, yes, of course.
Tell me how.
Because it concerns me professionally. You take into account the suborbital crest, the maxillary curve, facial eminences.
Yes. And finding the truth concerns me professionally, and the differences are equally obvious. There is as much difference in my eyes between a leading bourgeois type of a Times article and the slovenly print of an halfpenny paper as there is between your man and your beast. The detection of types is one of the most elementary branches to a criminal investigator. Although I must admit, once when I was very young, I did mistake a Western morning news with a Leeds Mercury paper. But a Times leader is entirely distinctive, and these words could have been taken from no other. And the fact that it was put together yesterday was easy to find. We would find the words in yesterday's issue.
So as far as I can follow you there, Mr. Holmes, someone cut out this message with a pair of scissors.
With nail scissors. You can tell they were short-bladed scissors. The cutters had to take 2 snips around the words keep away.
There. Here's short-bladed scissors and stuck it onto the paper with paste.
With gum.
Gum onto the paper. But I want to know why the word more should have been written.
Well, the other words would be very easy to find in this issue, but the word more, no, much less common.
That's so. Have you read anything else in the message, Mr. Holmes?
There certainly are 1 or 2 indications, but the utmost pains have been taken to remove all clues. The word more, you see, has been scrawled, but Times article is seldom found in the hands of those that aren't highly educated. That means that we're dealing with an educated man who wishes to pose as an uneducated one. And the fact that he scrawled the word more lets us know that he's wary that his hand may be known by you, or come to be known by you in the future. Again, you will see, the words are not gummed in an accurate line. Some are very much higher than others. The word like, for example, very much out of its proper place. This suggests two things: carelessness, or the cutter was in a hurry. I doubt he would be careless. It's evidently a matter of importance. So that begs the question of why was he in a hurry, since he was delivering it by his own hand? Did he fear an interruption? And if so, from whom?
Well, we're coming now rather into the region of guesswork.
It is the scientific use of the imagination, Dr. Mortimer. Sir Henry, is there anything else you wish to delve into before we go into this matter?
Well, it all depends on what you feel's worth reporting.
I think anything out of the ordinary routine, well, worth reporting.
Well, I don't claim to know much about British life yet. I spent so much time in the States and in Canada, but I really do hope that to have one of your boots go missing is not part of the ordinary routine of life over here.
You have lost one of your boots.
You asked me to report anything outside the ordinary routine.
Yes, however foolish the incident may seem. You've lost one of your boots, you said.
Well, mislaid it anyhow. I left them both outside my hotel room when I went in. And then when I left, there was only one there. The worst part is I only bought the pair yesterday. I've never even had them on.
If you'd only bought the pair yesterday, why did you put them out to be cleaned?
The new tan boots never been varnished. That's why I left them out.
So it is my understanding that when you arrived in London this morning, you went out first thing to buy a new pair.
Well, if I'm to be squire down there, I must look the part. Perhaps I've been a little bit careless in my ways out west. And amongst other things, yesterday I bought these new pair of boots. I paid $6 for them and had one stolen before I ever had them on my feet.
Seems a singularly useless thing to steal.
And now, gentlemen, it appears that I've spoken enough about the little that I know, and perhaps you two should keep your word and tell me what it is we're driving at.
How well do you know your family history, Sir Henry?
I know what I need to.
The Hound of the Hugo Baskerville, that's the matter which concerns us.
Yes, it appears that I've come into an inheritance with a vengeance. I've heard of that hound ever since I was in the nursery. Well, I've never considered taking it seriously before, but I suppose with my uncle's death, it all sort of comes to a bit of a boiling point. You don't seem to have made up your mind whether you think it's a case for a policeman or a clergyman.
Precisely.
Now there's a matter of this letter. The scoundrel that's following me, I suppose it all fits into place.
So what do you intend to do now, Sir Henry?
Well, I'll go to Baskerville Hall.
And when?
Well, at the end of the week. Don't you be telling me there's any reason why I should not go to the property of my own people.
There seems to be danger.
Well, you mean danger from some fiendish phantasm or danger from my actual enemies?
That is what I wish to find out.
We will investigate this quandary then.
Only when I know Sir Henry's life is not in danger, and not a moment more.
Whichever the matter, Mr. Holmes, my answer is fixed. There is no force in heaven or hell that is going to keep me from living in the home of my people. You may take that as my final answer.
Watson!
Kept chasing him several blocks until he leapt into a cabin. He took off too quickly.
Has there ever been such bad luck?
Who was
If
that?
you're an honest man, Watson, you will report this against my successor.
Who was the man?
That I do not know.
A spy?
Possibly. It seems that someone is deeply interested in Sir Henry's movements since he's arrived here in London. Watson, we're dealing with a clever man here. Now, I've not made up my mind whether it's benevolent or malevolent agency which we're dealing with. I'm conscious always of power and design, and this puts him in the power of the cabman.
Failed to see how I could have done any more.
We hold several cards in our hands, Watson. Could you swear to that man's face?
I could only swear to the beard.
So could I. In all probabilities, it was a false one, save a clever man would use it to conceal his features.
Well, what do you make of it all?
We hold several threads in our hands, Sir Henry, and only one will lead to the truth. We may waste time in following the others, but sooner or later we must come upon the right. And what do you intend to do, to go back?
To go back to Baskerville Hall.
Very good, I think that's a wise decision. Dr. Mortimer,
Yes.
do you know anyone back in Devonshire with a thick black beard?
Thick black beard. No. Wait a bit, though. Barrymore. Sir Charles's butler. He is a man with a full black beard.
And where is Barrymore?
Surely in Baskerville Hall.
We best ascertain whether he's there or whether could be here in London.
How can you do that?
Pass me a telegram. Is all ready for Sir Henry? Addressed to Mr. Barrymore.
Indeed.
Baskerville Hall. What's the nearest post office? Grimpen. Right, and then we'll send a second telegram to the postmaster in Grimpen to be delivered to Barrymore's hand. If not present, send wire back to Sir Henry Baskerville at the Northumberland Hotel. Very good. We should know before too long whether Barrymore is in fact at his post or if he could be here in London. Watson, send these at your earliest convenience.
That's so. By the way there, Doctor, who is this Barrymore anyhow?
He's the son of the old caretaker who is dead. He and his family have looked after the hall for, I dare say, 4 generations now. As far as I know, he and his wife are respectable as any couple in the county.
Well, that may be, but as long as there's no family living in that home, they have a fine place to live and nothing to do.
Well, I suppose.
Did
but you cannot-
Barrymore profit from Sir Charles's will?
Yes. Yes, he and his wife received £500 each.
Did they know they would receive this?
Yes, Sir Charles was very fond about talking about the provisions of his will.
Indeed.
I hope you do not look with suspicious eyes upon everyone who received a legacy from Sir Charles. I myself received £1,000.
Really?
Indeed.
And anyone else?
Well, there was a small number sent to individuals and a large to public charity. The residue all went to Sir Henry.
And how much was the residue?
£740,000.
Good Lord. I had no idea such a gigantic sum was involved.
Neither did we. Sir Charles had the reputation of being rich, but we didn't know how rich till we began to examine his securities. Seems to me that the estate was worth up to £1 million.
It certainly is an amount which would make a man play a desperate game. And now, Dr. Mortimer, if anything were to happen to our young Sir Henry, you will forgive the unpleasant hypotheses. Who would inherit the estate?
Oh, that's interesting. The estate would fall to Desmond's, who are distant cousins from Westmoreland. Mr. James Desmond is an elderly clergyman from there.
Have you met Mr. James Desmond?
Oh, yes. He came to visit Sir Charles once or twice. He is a venerable man of saintly life and amiable appearance. Sir Charles pressed upon him to take some portion of the will, but naturally he refused.
So this man of amiable qualities would receive Charles's £1,000.
Well, yes, he would receive the estate and the house which is entailed, and the money would stay with its current owner, who of course can do whatever he likes with it.
Have you made your will, Sir Henry?
I confess I've not had the time, Mr. Holmes. It was only yesterday I learned how matters stood. However, I feel that the money should go with the title and the estate. That was the wishes of my uncle. I was one to restore the glories of Baskerville Hall if he's not the means to do so. House, land, and dollars must all go together.
I agree with you, and I'm in the right mind to send you back to Baskerville Hall yourself. But I must beg you do not go alone.
Dr. Mortimer can return with me.
No. Dr. Mortimer has a practice to attend to, and his house is very far from yours. No, you need someone who will be with you day and night.
Well, is there any chance you can come yourself, Mr. Holmes?
I'm afraid, Sir Henry, you will see with my extensive consulting practice, it will be impossible for me to leave London for an indefinite amount of time. I couldn't go to Dartmoor with you, no.
Well, who would you recommend then?
If my dear friend Watson would undertake it, there is no one that would be better to have by your side. No one can say that more confidently than I.
Well, that sure is kind of you, Dr. Watson. But you know just about as much in this matter as I do.
Really, I
you
think-
see me through this one, I'll be sure to never forget it.
It would be my pleasure. I don't know how I could employ my time better.
Yes, sir, and you will report directly to me. I think by Saturday we should have everything in order.
Oh, that suits Dr. Watson.
That's fine with Dr. Watson. I think Saturday 10:30, Paddington train station.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holmes.
Sir Henry?
Hello, Sir Henry.
You?
Thank you.
You seem troubled, Watson.
I'm not sure. I just have a feeling of dread in the pit of my stomach. I foresee some impending doom looming in the distance.
Do not fear, my dear friend. No harm will come to you.
I hope you're right.
Come on, Sir Henry. Afraid I cannot handle London in the mornings. Everyone's so busy and rude.
I must confess, I'll be looking forward to leaving this city. If only our friends would join us, we could be on our way.
Well, here they are now.
Sir Henry! Have you received a telegram this morning?
Yes, here it is.
This proves that Barrymore is in his post back in Devonshire. That eliminates one possibility.
Now, Mr. Holmes, I have another riddle for you.
Go on.
Well, my boot was returned last night.
Indeed.
Well, I noticed it was missing. I searched every inch of that room, and it certainly wasn't there then.
A most singular occurrence.
What's more is my other boot was stolen last night.
The other half of the pair.
No. The first boots they took were the new brown ones I bought upon my arrival. The ones they took last night were the old black ones I brought with me from Canada.
Well, you don't mean to say that.
Well, that's exactly what I mean to say. I only have 3 pair in the whole world. New brown ones, old black ones, and the patent leathers I'm currently wearing. First ones they took were the new brown ones, and the second lot they took were the black ones I brought with me.
What do you make of it?
I don't attempt to explain it. It's the strangest, queerest thing that's ever happened. What do you make of it?
Professor, I do not understand it yet. This case of yours is incredibly complicated. But I trust after the adventure of the man tailing you yesterday, you've not gone out alone.
Well, I went for a walk in the park yesterday evening, but I kept a watchful eye. No one would have escaped my notice.
I beg, Sir Henry, that you do not go out alone when you're in Devonshire. I fear that some great misfortune may befall you. Remember the queer old legend Dr. Mortimer told us. Avoid the moor at night when the powers of evil are exalted.
Well, I suppose that you know best. Doctor!
Watson, I will not bias your mind with theories and suspicions. I want you to report directly facts. Let me do the theorizing.
And what sort of facts?
Anything you deem necessary to know, especially between the young Henry and his neighbours up on the moor. I've had the opportunity to speak with Mr. James Desmond, and he's an old man, amiable disposition. I think we can rule him out entirely. So that leaves the people who surround Sir Henry on the moor.
I'll do my best.
Hey, Watson, you're armed, I suppose?
Yes, I thought it as well to take something with me.
Very good. Well, keep your revolver with you day and night. I can only wish you luck in Devonshire, but I'm not in an easy mind about it.
About what?
About sending you, my friend. It's an ugly business, an ugly, dangerous business, and the more I see, the less I like. Yes, you may laugh, my friend, but well, I will be very pleased to have you back in Baker Street before too long.
Diary of Dr. Watson, October 11th. Our journey to Devonshire was a swift and pleasant one, and I spent it in making the more intimate acquaintance of my 2 companions. A wagonette with a pair of cobs was waiting for us at the station, and in a few minutes we were flying swiftly down the road. Soon the wagonette topped the rise, and in front of us rose a huge expanse of the moor, mottled with gnarled and craggy cairns and tors like some fantastic landscape in a dream. Baskervilles sat for a long time with his eyes fixed upon us, and I read upon his eager face how much it meant to him, this first sight of that strange spot, where the men of his blood had held sway so long and left their mark so deep. There he sat with his unique suit and his American accent, And yet, as I looked at his dark and expressive face, I felt more than ever how true a descendant he was of that long line of high-blooded, fiery, and masterful men. If on that forbidding moor a difficult and dangerous quest should lie before us, this was at least a comrade for whom one might venture to take a risk with the certainty that he would bravely share it.
Well, hello. What's this? Mounted soldiers? Patrolling the moor with rifles? Well, what is this, Perkins?
There's a convict escaped from Princetown, sir. He's been out 3 days now, and the warders watch every road and every station, but they've no sight of him. The farmers around here don't like it, sir, and that's a fact.
Well, I understand that they get £5 if they can give information.
Yes, sir, but the chance of £5 is nothing compared to the chance of having your throat slit. You see, sir, this is no ordinary criminal. This is a man who would stick at nothing.
Well, who is he then?
It is Selden, sir, the Notting Hill murderer.
And I remember the case well. Holmes took an interest on account of the peculiar ferocity of the crime and the wanton brutality which marked all the actions of the assassin. The commutation of his death sentence was only let go due to some doubt as to his complete sanity, so atrocious was his conduct. To think that somewhere out there on that desolate plain is lurking that fiendish man, hiding in a burrow like a wild beast.
Baskerville Hall.
Ah,
This is it, a pile of black granite and a bedroom of rafters? It's no wonder my uncle was a little jumpy living in a place such as this. It's enough to scare any man.
I admit it can be a tad daunting, especially in the twilight. But see that structure over on the far side? It was part of Sir Charles's plan to rebuild the estate. I say when it's complete, it will reinvigorate the place.
Welcome, Sir Henry. Welcome to Baskerville Home.
Oh, you don't mind my driving straight home, Sir Henry. My wife is expecting me.
Surely you're safe.
Surely not. I'm afraid I'll find some work awaiting for me. Good luck. Never hesitate night or day to send for me if I can be of assistance.
This way, sir.
All right, tally-ho, Perkins!
Baskerville Home.
Just as I met. Is it not the very picture of an old family home? Think 500 years is where my people have lived. It strikes me solemn to think.
My wife and I, Sir Henry, will be happy to stay with you until you have made your fresh arrangements. However, you must understand that under the new conditions, this house will require a considerable staff.
What new conditions?
I only meant, sir, that Sir Charles led a very retired life and we were able to look after most of his wants. You would understandably wish to keep more company and therefore need to make the changes to your household.
You mean you and your wife wish to leave?
Well, sir, only when it is convenient for
But your family served mine for several generations, haven't they? I hate to start my new life here by breaking such an old family connection.
Yes, I feel that too, and so does my wife. But you must understand that we grew very attached to Sir Charles, and his death gave us a great shock, making these surroundings very painful to us. I'm afraid we may never again be at ease in our minds at Baskerville Hall.
Then what do you intend to do?
Well, sir, I have no doubt that we shall succeed in establishing a business of our own. Sir Charles' generosity gave us the means to do so. And now, sir, perhaps I shall leave you to find your.
It's not a very cheerful place, is it?
no.
I suppose one can tone down to it, but I must confess, Doctor, I feel a little bit out of picture at present. So if I was you, retire early tonight, and perhaps all will be cheerful in the morning. Good night, Doctor.
Good night.
Well, perhaps it's ourselves and not the house we have to blame. We were so tired by our journey and chilled by our drive, we took a grave view of this place. Well, now it's morning, all is cheerful once more.
And yet it was not entirely a question of imagination. Did you, for example, happen to hear someone sobbing in the night?
Well, I confess I did hear something of the kind as I was going to sleep. Well, I waited a while and it stopped, so I assumed it was a dream.
I heard it distinctly, and I'm sure that it was the sob of a woman.
Yeah, we must ask about this right away. Barrymore.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Watson and I can swear we heard the sound of a woman sobbing last night. Where any such sound?
There is only one woman in the house, sir. My wife and I can answer for it, but the noise could have not come from her.
And he lied as he said it. For it chanced that after breakfast I met Mrs. Barrymore in the long corridor with the sun full upon her face. She had greeted me cheerfully, but her telltale eyes were red and gazed at me from behind swollen lids. It was she then who wept in the night, and if she did so, her husband must know it. Yet he had taken the obvious risk of discovery and declaring that it was not so. Why had he done this? And why did she weep so bitterly? Already around this pale-faced, handsome, black-bearded man there was gathering an atmosphere of mystery and of gloom. It was he who had been the first to discover the body of Sir Charles, and we only had his word for all the circumstance which led up to the old man's death. Was it possible that it was Barrymore after all who had escaped from the cabin in Baker Street? The beard might well have been the same, but could I settle the point forever? Obviously, the first thing to do was to see the Grimpen postmaster and find whether the test telegram had really been placed into Barrymore's own hands. Be the answer what it might, I should at least have something to report to Sherlock Holmes.
Now, this is better. The open fields, the sweet air. So much nicer than London, wouldn't you say, Doctor?
It's lovely. Let's take a minute, shall we?
See, there's nothing insidious out here. Just nature.
Still, I should like to see the postmaster. Send a note to Holmes, keeping him informed.
Oh, postmaster's already been this morning.
What? But why didn't you tell me?
Well, didn't want to disturb you.
Sir Henry, you're lying to me. Why didn't you tell me?
Well, he brought news. May not lie.
And?
Well, he said that telegram was meant to be delivered to Barrymore.
Yes?
It was delivered to Barrymore, but it was delivered to Mrs. Barrymore.
So the man following you in London
May well have been Mr. Barrymore.
should have told me. Anyhow, what's done is done. I see no point in pursuing the inquiry further.
All right, let's continue on.
One second.
Hello! Hello! Dr. Watson! Oh, you will forgive my presumptions, good doctor. Here on the moor we are homely folk. Do not wait on formal introductions. I'm sure you've already heard my name from mutual friend, Dr. Mortimer. I am Jack Stapleton, of Merripit House.
Oh, yes. Alfred would have told me as much, for I knew that you were a naturalist. But how did you know me?
Well, I've been out scouring the moors for collections, and I visited Mortimer to have a lunch, and he pointed you out to me from the window of his surgery as you passed by, and I thought, our roads lay the same way. I must overtake that man, introduce myself. Now, you must tell me, how is Sir Henry after his...
Thank you.
Excellent. There was some fear that, well, after the sad death of Sir Charles, the new baronet might not want to live here. He's asking rather a lot for a rich man to come and bury himself in a place such as this. Needless to say, it means a very great deal to the countryside that he has chosen to do so. I trust Sir Henry has no superstitious fears in this matter.
I do not think that is likely.
Well, you have, of course, heard the legend of the fiendish dog that haunts that family.
I have heard it, yes.
It is extraordinary just how credulous the peasants are around here. Any number of them, ready to swear they have seen such a creature on the moor. That story took a great hold upon the imagination of dear Sir Charles. I fear it had some role to play in his passing.
How so?
Well, that old man had such worked-up nerves, the appearance of any dog might have had a fatal effect on his diseased heart. I fancy he really did see something of the sort that last night on the moors. I had long feared such a tragedy might occur. I was very fond of that old man. I knew his heart was weak.
How did you know that?
Oh, Mortimer told me.
Mortimer discusses his patient's ailments with his friends.
Oh, come now, Dr. Watson. We are not so formal here as London folk. Besides, in a small village such as this, few things remain secret for very long.
You think, then, that some dog pursued Sir Charles, and that he died of fright in consequence?
Well, have you any better explanations?
I've not come to any conclusion yet.
Yes, but, well, has Mr. Sherlock Holmes? Oh, come now, Dr. Watson. It's foolish for us to pretend that we do not know you. Even here in Dartmoor, the tales of your great detective have reached us. You could not celebrate his achievements without becoming known yourself. When Mortimer told me your name, he could not hide your identity. And if you are here, well, it follows. The great Mr. Sherlock Holmes has himself taken interest in this case. I am naturally curious. Tell me, what views does he hold in this matter?
I'm afraid that I cannot answer that question.
Well, tell me, does he intend to visit us here himself? I should very much like to meet that man.
He cannot leave town at present. He has other cases which engage his attention.
Oh, well, that is a pity. He may have been able to shed some light on that which is so very dark to us. As to your own researches, if there is any way I may be of service, I trust you will command me. If I were to have some inclination as to the nature of your suspicions, or perhaps how you intend to investigate the matter further, I may be able to give you assistance or advice.
I assure you that I'm simply here upon a visit to my friend Sir Henry, and I need no help of any kind.
Excellent. No, you are perfectly right to be wary and discreet. I consider myself soundly reproved for what I now realize was an unjustifiable intrusion. Shall not mention that matter again. Yes. Now, this small path here will bring you to Merripit House. Perhaps you'd spare me an hour of your time so I might introduce you to my sister.
I should catch up with Sir Henry, but I suppose a short detour will do no harm.
Excellent. You know, it's a marvelous place, this moor. You never tire on it. Oh, you cannot think the many secrets that it holds. So vast, so barren, so mysterious.
You know it well, then.
Well, I've only been here 2 years. Local residents still call me a newcomer. I arrived shortly after Sir Charles had settled, but my tastes led me to explore every part of this country round, and I should think there are few men who know it better than I do.
Is it hard to know?
Oh, yes, very hard. Here. You see that great plain that lies to the north, with the queer hills rising out of it? Now, did you notice the patches of bright green scattered upon it?
Yes, they seem more fertile than the rest.
That is the great Grimpen Mire. A false step yonder is death to any man or beast. Only yesterday, I saw one of the moor ponies wander into it. He never came out again. Even in the dry seasons, it is dangerous to cross. And after these autumn rains, it is an awful place. And yet, I can find my way to the very heart of it and return alive. By George, there's another one of those miserable ponies. He's gone now. The moor has him. That's 2 in 2 days. Perhaps many more, God willing. Those blasted creatures are always getting in the way. Even during the dry seasons, they stumble foolishly across the moor till it has them in its clutches. Can be a bad place, that Grimpen Mire.
You say you can penetrate it?
Well, yes. There are 1 or 2 roads a very active man can take, and I have found them. I should think I'm the only man to have done so. You see, it is only by memorizing certain complex landmarks you'll ever be able to navigate in there.
Why should you wish to go in so horrible a place?
Oh, you see those hills rising beyond?
Yes.
Now they are essentially islands, cut off on all sides by the impassable mire that has grown up around them over the course of the years. But that is where the rarest plants and butterflies may be found, if you have the wit to reach them.
Hello? What is this?
Peasants say that is the hound of the Baskervilles, calling for its prey. I've heard it once or twice before, but never this loud.
You're an educated man. Surely you don't believe such nonsense as that.
Well, folks can make queer noises at times.
That was a living voice.
Perhaps you're right. Tell me, have you ever heard the sound of a bitter and booming?
No, I never have.
Well, it's a very rare bird, practically extinct in England now. But anything is possible out there upon the moors. Yes, I should not be surprised to learn that what we have heard is the lonely cry of the last of the bitterns.
Strangest, weirdest thing that I've ever heard in my life.
You see what I mean, then? About the marvelous secrets of the moor. It is an altogether uncanny place. Here. Do you see those grey circles of stone upon that hillside yonder? What do you make of those?
And what are they, sheep pens?
No, no. They are the worthy homes of our ancestors. See, prehistoric man lived thickly on the moors, and as no one has lived there since, well, you can find his arrangements exactly as he left them. See, those are his wigwams with the roofs off. You can even find his hearth or the recess where he keeps his bedding if you just have the curiosity to go inside. Oh, you shall find some rather singular places on this moor, Doctor. Oh, pardon me a moment, but if I am not mistaken, that is an excellent cyclopedes.
Go back. Go straight back to London instantly.
Why should I go back?
I cannot say, but for God's sake, do what I ask. Go back and never set foot upon the moor again.
But I've only just come.
Do not tell a warning when it's for your own good. Go back to London. Start tonight. Get away from this place at all costs. Oh, gosh, my brother is coming. Not a word of what I've said. Oh, no. Oh, would you mind fetching me that orchid among the mare's tail yonder? We're very rich in orchids.
Hello! Beryl!
Hi, Jack. You're very hot.
Yes, I was chasing a cyclopedes. You know how rare a specimen they are. You never find them this late in the autumn. Last did not catch it. Well, I see you've already introduced yourselves, it seems.
Yes, but I was just telling Sir Henry that he's rather late.
Who do you think this is?
Well, I imagine it must be Sir Henry Baskervilles.
Oh, no, only a humble commoner, but his friend. My name is Dr. John Watson.
Oh. We've been talking at cross purposes.
You have not had much time for talk.
No, I spoke as if Dr. Watson were a resident, instead of being merely a visitor. Cannot much matter to him whether he's early or late to see the orchids. But you will come along, will you not, and see Merripit House?
I am pressed for time, but I will accompany you back to the house. May I inquire of you, Mr. Stapleton? You said you haven't lived here for that long now.
Oh, no, we had a school once up in the North Country. The work there, for a man of my temperament, is mechanical, uninteresting. Oh, the privilege of living with youth, moulding young minds, impressing upon them one's own character, all that was very dear to me, but, well, fortune was not with us. A serious epidemic broke out at the school. Several of the lads died. Much of my capital was irretrievably swallowed up. But I must say, well, were it not for the loss of the companionship of the young lads, I may have rejoiced in that misfortune, for with my tastes in botany and zoology, I find here an unlimited field of work. Oh, my sister is as devoted to nature as I am, of course.
It certainly did cross my mind that it might be a little dull here, less perhaps for you than for your sister.
No, I'm never dull.
Oh. We have our books, our studies, our neighbours. Mortimer is, in his own way, a very learned man. And our other neighbour, Mr. Franklin, well, he is quite the eccentric. See, you have not yet had the pleasure.
Not yet, but he has invited Sir Henry and I for drinks at the end of the week.
Do you think I should intrude if I were to call round this evening to make the acquaintance of Sir Henry?
I am sure that he would be delighted.
Well, please inform him that I intend to do so. Now, Dr. Watson, you will come inside. Inspect my collection of Lepidoptera. I'm sure you will agree it is the most complete in all the southwest of England.
I'm sorry, but I must get back to Baskerville Hall. But I'll see you there later this afternoon. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Dr. Watson.
I've run all this way in order to cut you off, Dr. Watson. But I must not stop. My brother, you may miss me. I wanted to say how terribly sorry I am for the stupid mistake I made in thinking you were Sir Henry. Please, forget the words I have said. They have no application to you whatsoever.
But I can't forget them, Miss Stapleton. I am Sir Henry's friend, and his welfare is a very close concern of mine. Tell me why it was that you were so eager that Sir Henry should return to London.
A woman's whim, Dr. Watson. Well, when you know me better, you'll understand I cannot always give reasons for what I say and do.
No, I remember the thrill in your voice. I remember the look in your eyes. Please be frank with me, Miss Stapleton, for ever since I've been here, I've been conscious of shadows all round me. Life has become like that great Grimpen mire with little green patches everywhere into which one may sink and with no point to guide them to the track. Tell me what it was that you meant, and I will promise to convey your warnings to Sir Henry.
You make too much of it, Dr. Watson. My brother and I, we were very shocked by the death of Sir Charles. We knew him very intimately. His favourite walk was across the moor to our house. He was deeply impressed by the curse which hung upon his family, and when this tragedy occurred, naturally I thought there were some grounds for the fears which he expressed.
was very distressed, therefore, to hear another member of the family was coming to live upon the moor. I thought it was my duty to warn him of the danger with which he would run. That's all which I intended to convey.
But what is the danger?
You know the story of the Hound.
I do not believe in such nonsense.
But I do. If you have any influence over Sir Henry, take him away from a place that has always been fatal to his family. God, the world, it's wide. And why would he wish to live in a place of danger?
Because it is the place of danger. That is Sir Henry's nature. I fear that unless you can give me some more definite information than this, it will be impossible to get him to move.
I cannot say anything definite. I do not know anything definite.
I would ask you one more question, Miss Stapleton. If you meant no more than this when you first spoke to me, why should you not wish your brother to overhear what you said? There's nothing to which he or anyone else could object.
Well, my brother, he's very anxious to have the hall inhabited. He thinks it's for the good of the poor folk upon the moor. He'd be very angry if he found out I had said anything which might induce Sir Henry to leave. Look, Dr. Watson, I must leave. I've done my duty. I've said all that I can say. I must leave my brother. He's going to suspect I've seen you. Goodbye.
So Barrymore may have been in London last week after all.
It certainly seems possible.
Yes, sir?
Barrymore, I sent you a telegram from London last week.
Yes, sir, I remember.
And was it delivered directly into your own hands?
No, I was in the box room at the time, and my wife brought it up to me.
And did you answer it yourself?
No. I told her what to answer, and she went down to write it. Is there a problem, sir?
Hello? What's going on here?
Thank you, Barrymore. That'll be all. Seems that telegram sold nothing either way.
As it would seem. What do we do now?
We have the Stapletons here.
Mr. Stapleton, sir?
Welcome to Baskerville Hall.
Ah, Sir Henry, it is a pleasure to meet you. Now, I must say, I was very fond of your uncle. Quite sad by his passing.
Well, thank you, but now that you're here, join us for some tea.
Thank you.
Barrymore, be so kind as to bring some tea for our guests.
Yes, sir.
And how is your excavation at Long Down going, Doctor? I understand you were quite eager to get out there this morning. You discovered something interesting.
I, in fact, did. I found a skull of Neolithic origin. It's quite interesting because the maxillary curve is quite typical. and
Now
yet the
you've
facial
done it.
eminence-
You'll be talking about skulls for hours now.
I admit, I can be a bit tad enthusiastic about my hobby sometimes.
Yeah, it's understandable. I mean, Dr. Watson tells me you take some considerable risk yourself in crossing the Griffin Mine.
When you've spent as many years in the study of nature as I have, there's no real risk. You simply have to be aware of what signs to look out for. They will tell you all that you need to know.
That reminds you of someone else I know who's quite an expert in his field.
But, tell me, Sir Henry, how are you settling into your new home? It's not too gloomy for you, I hope.
It's certainly a more confronting abode than I'm used to. I'm surprised my uncle was a little nervous living alone in a place such as this.
Yes, your poor uncle. And tell me, have you been out upon the moors yet?
It's a long, dismal walk.
I know a place that may hold particular interest for you. Why don't you come with me now? Let's go and have a look at it.
Sure, I'm game. Dr. Watson, Mortimer.
Of course.
I'll catch you up.
Yeah, suit yourself.
Barrymore, you must forgive Sir Henry. He had no intention of pressing you that hard.
Why all the questions, Doctor?
Look, I know what you are, and are not capable of. In time, Sir Henry will see that too. But for now, follow any orders he gives you. Understand?
Yes, Doctor.
Here we are now. I imagine you're going to get quite the thrill out of this.
What is this place? It doesn't look at all remarkable to me.
What? No shiver running down your spine? No memory ingrained in your blood?
What are you talking about?
Right there. Right there is the very spot where Sir Hugo Baskerville was killed 200 years ago by a hound from hell.
Surely you don't actually believe that.
Well, I believe in a natural explanation for everything.
Very good.
There are more forces in nature than we mere mortals can ever possibly dream of fathoming. I can only tell you what I have heard, what I have felt.
What have you heard?
Nothing that all the other townspeople nearby haven't also heard. The unexplained sounds originating somewhere out here on the moors.
And what have you felt?
Stand there, sir. Yes, right here. Face that way. You are now facing Baskerville Hall. Can you imagine that night? 200 years ago. Through the black mist, you see the outline of a man, disheveled, mad, from seeing a beast no one else can see. It has driven him from his home out onto the moor. Can you feel it? The chill in the pit of your stomach, the crippling fear, the knowledge you will never escape this fate. You can see him, can't you? He's coming this way. He's lost the will to run, not from exhaustion. No, no, he is tired. Tired of the nightly torment the hound causes him. He approaches. His legs can no longer support him. He's paralyzed. He drops to the ground. The thrill of the cold night. The sensation of despair. You don't want to think about it, but you know what comes next.
What does come?
The jaws of the hound closing around your neck. Come, we should not tarry here any longer.
I couldn't agree more.
Yes, I believe Dr. Mortimer is going to show us another place of interest tonight. Perhaps you had better join us. It would do us well to have a local shed some light on the experience.
Henry! Sir Henry!
Who are you?
Sir Henry, you should not have come here!
This is my home.
Have you no concept of how dangerous this place is for you?
Are you?
I'm someone who cares about you, about your family.
Who are you?
I cannot say anymore.
Wait, what's your
Sir
name?
Henry! There you are. Don't worry, Watson, I found him. Hello? Beryl? Sir Henry, I see you've met my sister, Beryl, who should not be out here. Please, Sir Henry, it can get very dangerous upon the moor. We do not want anything happening to you, especially with that escaped convict still on the loose.
Oh, you're Beryl State.
And I would appreciate if you did not seek out the company of my sister. It's altogether inappropriate for a young lady to be alone in the presence of a bachelor such as yourself.
Thank you.
But
Thank you, Sir Henry. Your company, however brief, was appreciated.
I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Oh, yes, go along, Doctor.
And so there's been no sign of him.
No, it's a fortnight since he broke out of Princetown. Any one of those stone huts would give him a place to hide. There's nothing to eat unless he was to capture or kill one of the moorland sheep. I'm afraid, I hope he has gone.
I hope so. We're 4 able-bodied men at Baskerville Hall, so we can take care of ourselves.
Indeed.
You live some distance from the moor, but what about Stapleton? He lives miles from any help. He and his sister would be helpless in the hands of a desperate criminal if he could once effect an entrance.
Yes, I discussed the situation with Sir Henry. He suggested that Perkins the groom should go over and stay with them for a while, but of course Stapleton would not hear of it. In any case, I believe we've had a lucky escape.
So this is it.
Yes, this is where Sir Charles's body was found.
See, it's indeed an empty and dismal place. Come along, Sir Henry. This is where you believe he tripped?
Well, the indents on the ground would seem to indicate so, wouldn't you say?
Please be quiet. I wish to hear what Watson will add to this matter.
I'm afraid that I cannot add much. Anything I could surmise. Dr. Mortimer has preceded me in.
Or myself and Mr. Holmes. I was amazed what he's able to piece together without never actually seeing this place with his own eyes.
Well, no doubt Mr. Holmes guessed more than he actually knew.
More often than not, he knows a lot more than he says.
Well, if that were the case, it amazes me that he is not here at Dartmoor to solve this case himself. I see you! If you wish to avoid the reckoning that is to follow, you will remove yourself from my sister.
Jack, don't!
That's all right, Beryl. Why don't you let her decide the company and man she wants to keep?
If this continues, the remaining span of her years will greatly exceed your own.
Well, maybe she ain't interested in the length of a man's life, but the quality of the man that leads.
You pretentious simpleton!
Henry!
Beryl!
Beryl! Calm down, Jack.
No, Mr. Stapleton, you forget yourself.
Forgive me. I get defensive over my sister. Beryl! I must stop her before she goes too deep into the moors.
No, I'll go after her. Dr. Mortimer, see that Jack gets home safely. Home cell number 2. Come along, Jack. Too long.
Well, come back, Jack. Could be perilous out here.
Don't understand! I'm afraid, Henry!
Nothing to be afraid of. I'm here now.
You imbecile! That's precisely why I'm afraid! You don't care about your own well-being!
Of course I do.
Do you? I warned you not to come out here, but you did it anyway. And now you're wandering greenly around the moors without a second thought. Why aren't you afraid?
I am. That's why I came out here after you.
Why aren't you afraid for yourself? Do you not believe that evil surrounds you?
I don't know what to believe anymore. Everyone tells me to fear the moor, to fear the dark, to fear some fiendish hound that may or may not exist. I have enough to worry about in life without following up the fantasies of everyone around me. And today, I met you.
And all your fears dissipated.
They doubled. See, yesterday I didn't have much to live for. I mean, sure, I had my name and some prospects here and there, but I was alone, so none of it mattered. I realized that everything we strive for, everything we live for, it doesn't mean anything unless we got someone to share it with.
Henry, I don't know you.
Would you like to?
Oh, we must leave.
No. No, I'm safe when I'm with you. I've never let anything happen to you. What is it?
Henry! Oh, sorry, stop!
There's nothing out there. I circled around twice to ensure that nothing was approaching. Sir Henry, I think we had better get you home. Then I will escort Miss Stapleton to a door myself. Come with me. The night will be safe.
Brandy! Where's the brandy? Ah! Ah, it might just be enough.
Yeah.
Ah! Oh, it's a good British drink, you know. Warms the heart. Ah, cools the senses. Ah, Harry Baskerville! Ah, so good to see you again. What? How long has it been? What? 15 years?
Well, actually, Mr. Franklin, we've never met, and it's Henry Baskerville.
Henry Baskerville, of course. And this is
This is Dr. Watson, the guest Barrymore mentioned when you delivered your invitation.
a doctor of law.
No, medicine, actually. I served in India.
Ah, no mind. Doesn't do dwell on these things. Now, let me offer you a drink. Now, it's only the best.
Well, thank you.
No, not for me. Thank you.
Yes, only the best. Need to enjoy the good things in life while they last. to have several lawsuits in hand at present, which will probably swallow the remainder of my fortune. The old times have died away. No one cares about the good old days anymore. Probably because so few can remember them. Now, by the way, young Harry, I don't suppose you have an interest in astronomy.
No, I can't say that I do.
And you, Doctor?
A good friend of mine once said that it doesn't matter whether the Earth revolves around the sun or vice versa, so long as it rises each morning.
Well, I only dabble myself. Got a beauty of a telescope up on the roof. Top of the line. You'd be amazed what you can see.
Stars, I suppose.
On the moor. The police won't find anything on foot. With a high enough vantage point and a strong enough telescope, he won't get away long.
Who, the Notting Hill murderer?
No. Dr. Mortimer.
Dr. Mortimer is a respected physician.
He's a grave robber. That's what he is.
This is a very serious accusation. You've seen him digging up a grave.
Well, no, not exactly, but everyone knows he does.
How do you know he does?
Well, he's weird like. He collects skulls.
It's called phrenology, and it's a perfectly reasonable avenue of research.
Oh, forgive me, Doctor. I've not caused you offence.
You've done me no offence, but I should like to depart now before I should suffer any more from your ignorant remarks. Good day.
I better be joining him there, Mr. Franklin. It's been a pleasure to meet your acquaintance.
Oh, now, Harry, look, here is my hand. I do hope we shall remain friends.
Well, hell forbid it otherwise, sir.
Oh, come along, old friend.
What? Did you hear it too?
Yes, I heard the sobbing, followed by sly footsteps past my door. I saw a shadow. I can swear that it came in here.
I think so too.
The light. Whoever it is returning. Conceal yourself.
What?
Barrymore, what are you doing?
Nothing, sir. The windows. I go round at night to fasten them.
Barrymore, the doctor and I are going to have the truth out of you one way or another. So what were you doing at that window?
I was doing no harm, sir. I was merely holding a candle to the window.
And why were you holding a candle to the window?
Don't ask, Sir Henry, please. Don't ask. I give you my word. It is not my secret, and I cannot tell it. It will concern no one but myself. I would not try to keep it from you.
You must be holding it as a signal. Let us see if there's an answer. There.
Take that candle and you run it across that window.
Right.
See, the other one moves also. Do you deny that that's a signal? Who's your Confederate out there and what's this conspiracy against me?
It is my business and not yours. I will not tell it.
Then you will leave my employment immediately.
Very well, sir. If I must, I must.
And you go in disgrace. By God, your family served mine for several generations, and here I find you in some dark plot against me.
No, sir, not against you.
We must go, Eliza. It is over. You can pack our things.
John, have I brought you to this? This is my doing, Sir Henry, all mine. He has done nothing except for my sake because I asked him.
Speak out then, what is it?
My unhappy brother is starving on the moor. We could not let him perish at our very gate. The light is a signal to him to let him know food is ready, and the light out yonder is to show us the place to which to take it. We supply with everything, sir. Sheets, food, even your old and damaged clothes.
Your brother is.
The escaped convict, sir. Selden, the criminal.
Yes, it is the truth, sir. I told you that it was not my secret, and I could not tell it. But now that you have heard, I assure you, if there was a plot, it was not directed towards you.
Selden was my name, and he is my younger brother. We humoured him too much when he was a lad and gave him sway in everything until he came to see the world was made for his pleasure and he could do what he liked in it. And when he grew, he met wicked companions and the devil entered him until he broke my mother's heart and dragged our name in the dirt. From crime to crime, he sank lower and lower until it was only the mercy of God that snatched him from the scaffolds. But to me, I remember the little curly-haired boy that I nursed and played with as only an elder sister would. That's why he broke prison, sir. He knew I was here and could not refuse him. So when he dragged himself here one night, weary and starving, with the waters hard at his heels, what could we do? We took him in, we cared for him, we fed him. Then you arrived, sir, and my brother thought he would be safe on the moor than anywhere else until the hue and the cry was over. So he lay in hiding. Every night we made sure he was still there by putting a light in the window. And if there was a reply, my husband took out bread and meat to him. Every day I hoped that he had gone, but as long as he was there, we could not desert him. That is the whole truth, Sir Henry, as I am an honest Christian woman, and you will see if there's blame in the matter. It does not lie with my husband, but with me, for whose sake he has done all that he has.
This is true, Barrymore.
Yes, sir. Every word.
Yeah. Can't blame you for wanting to protect your wife. Forget what I've said here. Return to your rooms and we'll talk about this in the morning.
Yes, sir.
I wonder if days.
It may be so placed as to only be visible from here.
How far do you think it is?
Now by the cleft tor, I think.
That can't be more than a mile or two off.
Hardly that.
Can't be that far, for Barrymore had to carry food out to it. God, Watson, I'm gonna have that man.
You don't mean that you're
Well,
going
it's not exactly like Barrymore took us into their confidence when they told us his location, and why, any night now, our neighbors at Stapleton's might be attacked by it.
I will come.
Bring your revolver, because there's no telling when to turn that light out.
Where is it? The name of Fern! What's that? Someone's coming? Damn if I sold me out! You armed?
I have my hunting whip.
Close in on him rapidly, for he's said to be a desperate fellow. We should take him by surprise and have him out of mercy before he can resist.
I see, Watson. But what do you think Holmes would say to all this? How about, in the hour of darkness, the power of evil's exalted? Watson, what was that?
I don't know. It's a sound they have upon the moor. I've heard it once before.
I mean, Watson, what do they say of it?
Who?
The people on the countryside.
They're ignorant people. Why should you mind what they call it?
Well, come now, Watson, tell me, what do they say of it?
They say that it is the cry of the Hound of the Baskervilles.
It seemed to travel across the wind. It came from over yonder, I think.
It's hard to say from whence it came.
It was carried through the air. Is that the direction of the Grimpen Mire?
Yes, it is.
Rather hell. Now, Watson, I'm not a coward. You need not fear to speak the truth to me.
Stapleton was with me when I heard it last. He said that it might be some calling of some strange bird.
Oh, it was the cry of a hound. My God, is there be some truth to this? You don't think so, do you, Watson?
No, of course not.
Yet it was one thing to laugh about when we were in London, and the other to be out here in the dark on the moor. And then there was my uncle. There was that footprint of the hound where he lay. I'm not a coward, Watson, but that cry seemed to freeze my very blood.
You'll be all right tomorrow.
Think I'll get it out of my head. What should we do?
Shall we turn back?
No, we set out to have this man. By God, we'll have him, even if all the fiends in the pit are loose upon us.
Here, footprints.
Right, what should we do?
Wait here. He must be near. Let us see if we can get a glimpse of him.
Dead. You are dead, man!
Please, come down, sir.
Watson, who was that?
Sir Henry, I don't think that Selden is the only one out here on the moor. I can feel it. Impending danger. Ever-present danger. Which is the more terrible because I am unable to define it. And have I not cause for such a feeling when I consider the long sequence of incidents which have all pointed to some sinister influence which is at work around us? There is a death of the last occupant of the hall, fulfilling so exactly the conditions of the family legend. And there are the repeated reports of the peasants of the appearance of a strange creature upon the moor. Several times I have with my own ears heard a sound which resembled the distant baying of a hound. It is incredible, impossible that it should really be outside the ordinary laws of nature. The spectral hound which leaves material footmarks and fills the air with its howling is surely not to be thought of. Stapleton may fall in with such a superstition, and Mortimer also. But if I have one quality upon earth, it is common sense, and nothing will persuade me to believe in such a thing. To do so would be to descend to the level of these poor peasants, who are not content with a mere fiend dog, but must needs describe him with hellfire shooting from his mouth and eyes. Holmes would not listen to such fancies, and I am his agent. But facts are facts, and I have heard this crying upon the moor. And always, apart from the hound, there is a fact of the human agency in London. The man in the cab and the letter which warned Sir Henry against the moor. This at least was real, but it might have been the work of protecting friend as easily as that of an enemy. Where is that friend or enemy now? Has he remained in London, or has he followed us down here? Could he be the stranger whom I saw upon the moor? And then there is Sir Henry. He is silent and distrait. His nerves have been strangely shaken by that sound upon the moor. I will say nothing to add to his anxieties, but I will take my own steps to attain my own end.
I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore. You will know your role, and you'll shut your mouth. Barrymore considers he has a grievance. He thinks it was unfair for us to hunt down his brother-in-law when he, of his own free will, told us of his location.
I may have spoken too warmly, and if I have, I am sure I beg your pardon. But at the same time, I was very much surprised to hear you two gentlemen return this evening, having learned that you had been chasing Selden. The poor fellow has enough to fight against without me putting more upon his back.
If you'd have told us of your own free will, it'd have been an entirely different story. You only told us. Well, your wife only told us when it was forced from you and you had no choice.
Didn't think you would take advantage of it, sir. Indeed, I didn't.
The man is a public danger. You only need a glimpse of his face to see that. There were lonely houses scattered all over that moor. Why, any night, for example, our neighbours the Stapletons might be attacked with only him there to defend it.
He will break into no house, sir. I give you my solemn word. He will never trouble another man in this country again. I assure you that in the next couple of days, arrangements have been made for him to travel to South America. Please, sir, I beg of you, say nothing to the police about his location of the moor. They have given up the chase there, and he can lie quiet until the ship has arrived for him. You cannot go to the police without getting me and my wife in trouble. I beg of you, sir, please, say nothing to the police.
What do you say, Watson?
If he was safely out of the country, it would relieve the taxpayer of a burden.
What are the chances of him holding someone up before he goes?
He would not do anything so mad, sir. We have provided with him all that he could want. To commit a crime now would be to show where he was hiding.
It's true. Hail Barrymore.
God bless you, sir. Would have killed my poor wife had he been taken again.
I guess we're aiding and abetting felonies now, Watson. But I guess after what we heard, we can't exactly give the man up. There's an end to it. All right, Barrymore, you can go.
Thank you, sir. My gratitude knows no bounds. You know, Sir Henry, you have been so good to us both that I would like to do my best for you in return. I know something, and perhaps I should have said something earlier, but it was not long after the inquest had begun that I found it. I have not breathed a word of it to any mortal man. It is about Sir Charles's death.
Do you know how he died?
No, unfortunately, I do not.
What then?
I know why he was at the gate at that time. It was to meet a woman.
To meet a woman, huh?
Yes, sir.
And the woman's name?
Fortunately, I cannot give you her name, but I can give you her initials. Her initials are L.L.
How do you know this, Barrymore?
Oh, well, Sir Henry, your uncle had received a letter that morning. He usually received a great number of letters, for as a public figure, he was well known for his kind heart, and people will never trouble to turn to him in times of need. But as it chanced on that morning, he only received the one letter, so I took more notice of it. It was from a Coombe Tracy and was written in a woman's hand.
Well?
Well, sir, I thought no more of it, and nor would I have done so if it wasn't for my wife. Only a couple of weeks ago, she had been cleaning out Sir Charles's study. It had not been touched since his death, and she found the ashes of a burnt letter at the back of the grate. The greater portion of it had been charred to pieces, but one little slip at the end of the page hung together, and the writing could be still read on it, although it was grey on a black background. Let me see, it was some sort of postscript at the end of the page, and it read, please, if you are a gentleman, you will burn this letter and meet me at the gates at 10 o'clock. Signed beneath were the initials LL.
Have you got that slip?
No, unfortunately, it crumbled to pieces when we tried to.
Had Sir Charles received any of the letters in the same writing?
Well, sir, I did not usually take notice of Sir Charles's letters, and nor should I have noticed this one. It was only the fact that he came alone.
And you've no idea who LL is?
No more than you do, sir. But I am sure if we could get our hands on this lady, we would find more.
Barrymore, I can't understand why you would conceal such an important piece of information.
Well, sir, it was immediately after that our own trouble had come to us. And it must be said that we were very fond of Sir Charles, and must be considered all that he had done for it. To break this up could not help our poor master, and one must tread very carefully when there's a lady involved. Even the best of us
You
have our
thought
own.
it might injure his reputation.
Well, I thought no good could come of it, but as you have been so good to us, I thought it would be treating you unfairly not to tell you all I know about the matter.
Thank you, Barrymore. That'll be all. Yeah, Watson, what do you think of this new lad?
Seems to leave the darkness rather blacker than before.
Yeah, but now we know that there's someone out there that's got all the facts. We can find it. What should we do now?
Let Holmes know all about it at once. We'll give him the clue for which he has been seeking. I'm much mistaken if it does not bring him down.
Dr. Mortimer to see you, sir.
How are you, Doctor?
Very well, very well. I popped in to see how you two are holding up. I heard you had a bit of an adventure last night.
Well, thank you, Doctor. You've been very attentive to us.
Dr. Mortimer, how did you hear about the events of last night so quickly?
Oh, I heard about through some locals. News spreads like wildfire around here. You knew about a fraction of the story.
Suppose there are a few people living within driving distance of this whom you do not know?
Hardly any of them.
Can you then tell me the name of any woman whose initials are LL?
No. Well, there are some gypsies and labouring folk for whom I can't answer, but among the farmers or the gentry, there's... Wait a bit, though. Laura Lyons. Her initials are LL, but she lives in Coombe Tracy. I don't think that.
Laura Lyons, who is she?
She's the daughter of Franklin.
What, old Franklin the Crank?
Exactly. She married an artist named Lyons who came sketching upon the moor. However, he proved to be a blackguard and deserted her. The fault, from what I hear, may not have entirely been on one side. So, between the old man and the young one, the girl has had a pretty bad time. Franklin abandoned her because she married without his consent.
So how does she live?
Not well. Sir Charles gave her a trifle in order to get her started again. I put in a little bit myself, and so did Mr. Stapleton. We put in some to help her set up a typewriting business, I think. And that is when Franklin began to show some interest again. Well, obviously not for her sake, but for his. And Doctor, why do you ask all this?
Rest assured, my brother, that I ask only what I need to know. Tomorrow morning I shall find my way to Coombe Tracy, and if I can see this Laura Lyons with equivocal reputation, a long step will be made towards clearing one incident in this chain of mysteries. Good day.
Doctor, I've lost a set of keys. Would you be able to give me a hand finding them?
Well, absolutely.
Darling, I thought you were... I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else. Who are you? What is your business?
Good morning, Mrs. Lyons. My name is Dr. John Watson. I have the pleasure of knowing your father.
My father and I have nothing in common. His friends are not mine, and I owe him nothing. When up the late Sir Charles Baskervilles, on Pine Park, I was a staff for all my father cared.
It was about the late Sir Charles Baskerville that I've come here to see you.
What can I tell you about him?
You knew him, did you not?
I already said I owe a great deal to his generosity. If I'm able to support myself, it is largely due to the interest in which he took upon my unhappy situation.
Did you correspond with him?
What are the object of these questions?
The object is to avoid a public scandal. It's better that I should ask them here than the matter should pass outside our control.
Well, then I'll answer. What are your questions?
Did you correspond with Sir Charles?
I certainly wrote to him once or twice to acknowledge his generosity and delicacy.
Have you the dates of those letters?
No.
Have you ever met him?
Yes, once or twice when he came into Coombe Tracy. He was a very retiring man, and he preferred to do good by stealth.
But if you saw him so seldom and wrote so seldom, how did he know enough about your affairs to be able to help you as you say that he has done?
There were several gentlemen who knew of my sad history and united to help me. One was Mr. Stapleton, a neighbour and intimate friend of the late Sir Charles.
Yes.
It was through him that Sir Charles learned about my affairs.
You ever write to Sir Charles asking him to meet you?
Really, sir, that is a very extraordinary question.
Sorry, madam, but I must repeat it.
And I answer, certainly not.
Not on the very day of Sir Charles's death.
No.
Surely your memory deceives you. I could even quote you a passage from your letter. It ran, "Please, please, as you are a gentleman, burn this letter and be at the gate by 10 o'clock.
Is there no such thing as a gentleman anymore?
You do. Sir Charles, an injustice. He did burn the letter, but sometimes the letter may be legible even when burned. You acknowledge now that you wrote it.
Yes, I did write it. I did write it. Why should I deny it? I have no reason to be ashamed of it. I wished him to help me. I thought that if I had an interview with him, I could gain his help, so I asked him to meet me.
But why at such an hour?
Because I had only just learned that he was going to London next day and might be away for months. There were reasons why I could not get there earlier.
Why a rendezvous on the road instead of a visit to the house?
Do you think a woman could go alone at that hour to a bachelor's house? What would the townsfolk say? What scandal would it produce?
Well, what happened when you got there?
I never went.
Mrs. Lyons, I do not relish in your dishonesty.
I swear to you, on all I hold sacred, I never went. Something intervened my going.
What was that?
That matter is private, I cannot tell it.
You acknowledge then that you made an appointment with Sir Charles, the very hour and place at which he met his death, but you deny that you kept the appointment.
It is the truth.
Very well, Mrs. Lyons, you are taking a very great risk if you're putting yourself in a false position by not making an absolutely clean breast of all that you know. Why were you so pressing that Sir Charles should destroy your letter?
That matter is private.
More reason to avoid a public investigation.
All right, I'll tell you. If you knew anything of my sad history, you will know that I made a rash marriage and had reason to regret it.
I have heard as much.
My life has been one incessant persecution from a husband whom I abhor. The law is upon his side, and every day I am faced with the possibility that he may force me to live with him. The time that I wrote the letter to Sir Charles, I had learned of a prospect of me regaining my freedom. It meant everything. Happiness, self-respect, peace of mind, everything. I knew of Sir Charles's generosity, and I thought that if he heard the story from my own lips, he would help me.
How is it that you did not go?
I received help in the interval from another source.
Why then did you not write to Sir Charles and explain this?
So I should have done had I not seen his death in the paper the next morning. I know this looks bad on me, but all I can really tell you is...
Laura, darling! I see we have a guest. How do you do? Dr. Watson. Laura, fetch us some wine, will you? This is an event for a celebration. This is a great day for me, sir. One of the red-letter days of my life. I have brought about a double event. I mean to show them in these parts that law is law. And there is a man who does not fear to invoke it. I have established a right of way through the centre of Old Middleton's Park. Slap through it, sir. Not 100 yards from his own front door. What do you think about that? I'll teach these magnates. They can't run roughshod over the common people, confound them. And I have closed the wood where the fern-worthy folk used to picnic. These infernal people think there are no rights of property and they can swarm wherever they like with their papers and bottles. Both cases decided, and both in my favour. I have not had such a day since I had Sir John Morton for trespass, because he shot in his own warren.
How on earth did you do that?
Look it up in the book, sir. It shall repay reading. Franklin versus Morland, Court of Queen's Bench. It cost me £200, but I got my verdict.
Did it do you any good?
Not at all. I'm proud to say I have no interest in the matter. I act entirely out of a sense of public duty. For example, I have no doubt that the Fernworthy people will burn me in effigy tonight. I told the police last time they did it. They need to stop these disgraceful exhibitions. The county constabulary is in a scandalous state, sir. It's not afforded me the protection for which I am entitled. The case of Franklin versus Regina bring the matter to the attention of the public. I told them that they would have occasion to regret their treatment of me. Even now, my words have come true.
How so?
Because I can tell them something they are dying to know. Nothing would induce me to help those rascals in any way.
Well, Mr. Franklin, I think I must be... Wait. What were they dying to know? Some poaching case, no doubt.
Ha ha ha! Any more serious than that, my boy? What about the convict on the moor?
You don't mean that you know where he is?
I may not know exactly where he is, but I have no doubt I can help the police lay their hands on him. Has it never struck you? The way to catch that man is to find out where he got his food and trace it to him?
No doubt, but how do you know that he is anywhere upon the moor?
Because I have seen with my own eyes the messenger who brings him his food. You'll be surprised to learn that his food is brought to him by a child. I see him from my telescope on the roof every day. He takes the same path at the same time. Now, who else would be going to see except the convict?
Child, you're quite sure?
As I say, with my own eyes.
Not on the trail, it seems, but not on that of the convicts.
But
I know there is more than one person residing on the moor. The convict could not have induced a child to help him. No, it must be him. Yes, it must be him. Where did you see this boy?
You see that black tor yonder? You see the small hill beyond with a thorn bush upon it? That is the stoniest part of the moor. That would be an excellent place for a hermit or a fugitive to take his station. You can be sure, sir, that I have very good reason before I come to an opinion. I have seen the boy and his bundle through my telescope every day, sometimes twice a day. And I have been able... Wait a moment. Do my eyes deceive me? Is that someone upon the hillside? Can you see him? Am I right?
Certainly, there is some figure who wishes to be kept secret.
Yes. Places me in a delicate situation, sir. I must swear to secrecy. On a word. Now, do you understand?
Just as you wish.
They have treated me shamefully. Shamefully! When the facts of Franklin versus Regina are made public, I have no doubt that a wave of indignation will run through the country. Nothing would induce me to help the police in any way. For all they cared, it could have been me that was burned at the stake, and not my effigy.
Mr. Franklin, I'm afraid I must be going. There appears to be an urgent matter which requires my immediate attention.
Oh, no, but you'll stay and help me empty the bottle on this great occasion. No! It appears to be my curse that every friend I keep will run from me. I can't for the life of me think why.
Loaf of bread, tinned tongue, 2 tins of preserved peaches, note of sorts. Dr. Watson's gone to Coombe Tracy. It is I then, and not Sir Henry, who's been dogged by this secret man. this confirms why I have scarcely felt safe upon these moors. Dogged by some unseen force, but by a malignant malefactor or by a guardian angel.
What a beautiful evening for a stroll. Please be careful with that revolver.
Holmes. Holmes! I never was more glad to see anyone in my life.
More astonished based on your reaction.
Well, I must confess that...
The surprise was not all on one side, Watson. Really, if you sincerely desire to deceive me, you must change your tobacconist whenever I smell Bradley tobacco. I know my dear friend Watson's in the neighbourhood, and I knew that revolver in hand you would be scrutinising my belongings. So you really thought I was the criminal?
Did not know who you were, but I was determined to find out.
Very good. And how did you localise me? The night of the convict hunt, when I was so imprudent as to allow the moon to rise behind me, was that it?
Yes, I saw you then.
And no doubt you searched all the huts before you came upon this one.
No, your boy had been observed, and that gave me a guide where to look.
The old gentleman with the telescope. I could not figure it out when I saw the light flashing upon the lens. So you've been to Coombe Tracy?
Yes?
To speak with Miss Laura Lyons?
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel, Watson, that our researchers are on parallel lines, and when we unite our results, we'll have a fairly full knowledge of this case.
I'm glad from my heart that you are here, for indeed the responsibility and the mystery were both becoming too much for my nerves. How in the name of wonder did you come here? And what have you been doing? I thought you were at Baker Street working out that case of blackmail.
That was what I wished you to think.
And you used me, and yet you do not trust me. I think that I deserved better at your hands, Holmes.
Oh, Watson? You have been invaluable to me. I mean, in truth, it was the danger which you ran which made me come down here and examine the situation for myself. If I'd been with you and Sir Henry, I fear that my thoughts would have been the same as yours, and it could have led our formidable opponent to be on his guard.
Why keep me in the dark?
Oh, I did consider telling you, but it couldn't have helped anyone. It would only have led to my discovery.
Then my reports have all been wasted?
Oh, no, my friend. Here are your reports. All very well thumbed, I assure you. They were only delayed one day upon their way. Watson, I must congratulate you exceedingly on the zeal and intelligence you've shown in this remarkable case. Now tell me, what of your visit to Miss Laura Lyons in Coombe Tracy? It was not hard for me to get a telephone. You have not come today. You will come yourself tomorrow. My
Report.
Really, Watson? This fills the gap which I've been unable to bridge. You are aware, no doubt, of the intimate relationship that exists between this lady and the man they call Stapleton.
You're not aware of an intimate relationship?
Oh, there can be no doubt. They meet, they write. There's a complete understanding between them. Now, if only I can use this to detach his wife.
His wife?
The woman who has passed here to be his sister is, in fact, his wife.
Good heavens, Holmes. Are you sure of what you say? How could you have permitted Sir Henry to fall in love with her?
Sir Henry falling in love with her could not have hurt anyone apart from Sir Henry.
Why this elaborate deception?
Because he foresaw that she would be much more useful to him in the character of a free woman.
It is he, then, who is our enemy. It is he who dogged us in London.
Yeah, so I read the riddle.
And the warning, it must have come from her.
Yeah, I think that the affections she feels for Sir Henry are, in fact, genuine.
How do you know that the woman is his wife?
Because he's so far forgotten to tell you a true piece of his autobiography when you first met. And I fear that he's regretted it ever since. Look, the man was a school teacher in the north of England, and there is no one more easy to find than that of a school teacher. When his school came under grief under some atrocious circumstances, then he fled down here with his wife under a different name. When I knew that he had a passion for entomology, the identification was complete.
This woman is in truth his wife. Where does Mrs. Laura Lyons come in?
Well, that is where your research has shed much light. Watson, your interview with the lady has cleared up the situation very much. I didn't know about a projected divorce between her and her husband, and, well, her regarding Stapleton as a single man. She counted no doubt on becoming his wife.
And when she's undeceived,
then she may be of service to us. But really, Watson, don't you think you've been away from your charge rather a long time? Your place is Baskerville Hall. Where is it, Watson?
There, I think. No, over there.
What's in the hat? Oh, we're too late. Watson, that's it. We're too late. He's beaten us.
No, surely not.
Fool I was to hold my hand. And you, Watson, see what happens when you abandon your charge? By heavens, we will avenge him.
Body of Sir Henry Baskerville. There is no chance that it is a peculiarly unique suit, the very one which he wore that first morning we saw him in Baker Street. The brute or Holmes, I shall never forgive myself for having left him to his fate.
I am more to blame than you, Watson. In order to have my case well-rounded and complete, I've sacrificed the life of our client. It is the greatest blow which has befallen me in my career. How could I know that he would risk his life in the face of all my warnings?
Screams. My God, those screams, and yet to have been unable to save him. Where is this brute of a hound which drove him to his death? He may still be lurking amongst these rocks at this instant. And Stapleton, where is he? He shall answer for this deed.
Yes, he shall. Uncle and nephew have been murdered, one by the sheer fright of what they thought to be supernatural, and the other run off his head in a wild attempt to escape it. But now we have to prove a connection between the man and the beast, but say from what we heard, we cannot even prove the latter from the former. Watson, I told you in London, this is a formidable man. He will be in our grasp before another day is passed.
We know where he resides. Why should we not seize him at once?
Because our case is not complete. This man is formidable and cunning to the last degree. One false move and the villain may escape as yet.
What can we do?
The only thing we can do is perform the last of our offices to our dear friend.
We cannot carry him all the way to the hall. We must send for help. Good heavens, are you mad?
Watson, he doesn't have a beard.
What? No beard?
That isn't the baronet. That's Selden, the criminal.
Of course. It's all so clear to me. The baronet told me he'd handed his old wardrobe to Barrymore. Barrymore had passed it on to Selden in order to aid in his escape. Boots, shirt, jacket, it's all Sir Henry's. The tragedy is still black enough, but this man had at least deserved death by the laws of his country. Dead of night, how easily is this rogue mistaken for a Baskerville? And the clothes have been a poor devil's dad.
Watson, the boot that was extracted in London, the Hound, had been led on his trail. But how did Selden know in the face of the darkness that the Hound was on his trail?
We heard him.
No, what did you hear first, Watson? A scream? Or a howl?
A scream, I believe.
He could only have screamed if he'd seen the Hound. How did he know that?
The greater mystery to me is why this hound, presuming that all our conjectures are correct.
I have presumed nothing.
Well, then why this hound should be loose tonight? I suppose it did not always run loose upon the moor. Stapleton would not let it go unless he had reason to think that Sir Henry would be here.
Well, the question now is what we do with this poor wretch's body. We cannot leave it here for the foxes and ravens.
I suggest we take it to your camp until we can communicate with the police.
I've no doubt you can carry it so far.
What?
Hello, Watson. What is this? All this wonderful and audacious, it's the man himself. There not a word, or all of my plans crumble to the ground.
Hello. I did not expect fellow travellers upon the moor at this hour. Dr. Watson, you are the last man I would wish to see. But what's this? A man is hurt. It's not Sir Henry, is it? Who is this man?
It is Selden, the man who escaped from Princetown.
I see. This is a shock. How did he die?
He appears to have broken his neck falling over those rocks. My friend and I were strolling upon the moor when we heard a cry.
I heard the cry also. That's why I'm upon the moor. See, I was worried for Sir Henry.
Why about Sir Henry in particular?
Well, see, I had invited him to Merripit House this evening. When he did not arrive, I was concerned. And then when I heard that cry, well, I became alarmed for his safety. Please, tell me, did you hear any other sound besides that of the cry?
No. Did you?
No.
Then what do you mean then?
Well, Mr. Holmes, Surely you must have heard the stories the peasants tell about that phantom hound and so on. Well, it is said to be heard from out upon the moors late at night. You must tell me, was there any evidence of such a sound being heard tonight?
Nothing of the kind.
Then, what is your theory of this fellow's death?
I have no doubt that through fear and anxiety he has ran into the moor and fallen here and broken his neck.
Yes, I like that. No, that is a most reasonable explanation.
Excuse me, Mr. Stapleton, you called me Mr. Holmes.
Did I?
I don't think we've had the pleasure.
Well, we've been expecting you here ever since Watson turned up, and you arrived. It seems. Time to witness a tragedy.
I have no doubt my friend's explanation will suffice. I will take this as an unhappy remembrance with me back to London tomorrow.
You return tomorrow?
That is my intention.
Well, I hope this visit of yours has shed some light on these occurrences that have so baffled us.
One cannot always have the success for which one hopes. An investigator needs facts, not
Yes.
legends and rumours.
That's right,
It's not
right.
been a satisfactory case.
Oh dear, that is a pity. I would suggest carrying this poor fellow's body back to Merripit House, but I fear that would give my dear sister Beryl such a fright I would not feel justified in doing so.
Thank you, Mr. Stapleton, but we've already arranged on a plan.
You have? Of course, of course. Well, good evening, gentlemen.
We have him at close grips at last. What nerve this fellow has to pull himself together in what must have been a paralysing shock when he realised the wrong man had fallen victim to his plot. But Watson, I told you in London, and I will tell you again now, that never before have we had a more formidable opponent.
I'm sorry that he has seen you, though.
Yes, and so was I, but there was no getting out of it.
What effect do you think it will have on his plans now that he knows you are here?
It would allow him to be more cautious, could drive him to desperate measures. In his cleverness, he may have think that he has entirely deceived us.
Why should we not arrest him at once?
Dear friend, John, you are born to be a man of action. Say we did have him arrested tonight. What better off would we be for it? But we still cannot prove the connection between the man and the beast. If we were dealing with a man, we could find some evidence, but to drag this dog into the light of day, no, it would not help us put a rope around the neck of his master.
Surely we have a case.
Not a shadow of one. We only have surmise and conjecture. Look, if we were to take this story into court, we'd be laughed out with such evidence.
There is Sir Charles's death.
Yes, found without a mark on him. Look, both you and I know he died of fright, and we also know what frightened him. But how are we going to get 12 scholar jurymen to understand it? Look, where are the marks of the dog? And where are its fang marks? We know a dog does not approach a dead body. We know that Sir Charles was dead ever since this brute overtook him.
But all that unfolded tonight.
Oh, we are not much better off tonight. Watson, there is no clear connection between the man and the beast. We didn't see the dog, we heard it. No, my friend, we need to think that we do not have a case at present, but we will do everything in our power to find it.
How do you propose to do so?
I think that our visit to Miss Lyons tomorrow will shed much light when the position of affairs are made clear to her. I have my own plan as well, but all sufficient for tomorrow.
You come to Baskerville Hall.
Yes, I see no reason for further concealment. Watson, let Sir Henry think Selden's death. Sir Stapleton wants us to believe it, but it will give him better nerve what he's about to undergo. And if I remember from your reports, he's engaged to dine with these people.
As am I.
Yes, you must excuse yourself. You must go alone. Now, I think it's a little past our dinner, but a little supper's in order, don't you think?
Probably a good thing too. I wouldn't want my stomach full while we take care of Selden.
Much more I wanted to live. Mr. Holmes, I wish I could say this is a surprise, but it's certainly more of a relief. Have you got any luggage?
No. Please send for Mr. and Mrs. Barrymore, if you will.
Barrymore, would you and your wife join us a moment?
Please take a seat. Henry, I think a glass of wine.
Now, who are you to ask him?
Henry, there's wine.
I don't need wine. I know what you're going to say. Never any hope in that God-forsaken war. Evil that lives out there is immeasurable. There's only despair. The moment my brother took his place there, I knew he was lost. I can only hope he's delivered to a better hell than he suffered in life. The world he was a man of violence, half demon, half animal. But I remember the little stubborn boy from days of innocence, the child who clung to my hand. You may think he's a monster, but to me, he was my brother.
Eliza, come.
Henry, let them go. More pressing matters.
Hope that you bring news. I've opened around the house all morning since Watson left. I kept my word. Well, if I hadn't, I dare say I would have had a more lively evening. I received an invitation from Mr. Stapleton to join it yesterday.
No doubt you would have had much more lively evening. I don't suppose you appreciate we've been mourning over your death.
How was that?
Poor wretch was dressed in your clothes. I fear that the servant that gave them to him will get in trouble with the police.
I find that unlikely. There was no marking upon him as far as I'm aware.
Then that's lucky for him. In fact, that's lucky for all of you. Hey, as a conscientious detective, I'm in two minds whether to have you all arrested at once. Watson's reports are most incriminating documents.
Yeah, what of the case? Well, have you learned anything new? I don't think Watson and I are any wiser since we came down here.
It's a very complicated case, this one you're saying. But it's coming all the same.
I've had one experience that Watson's no doubt told you about. Heard the cry of the Hound, so I can swear it's not all empty superstition. I had a fair deal to do with dogs when I was out west. If you put a muzzle and chain on this one, be ready to sway the greatest detective of all time.
I will train him a Muslim, all right, but I need your help.
Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do.
And I ask you to do it blindly, without always asking the reason.
If you insist.
Very good. Before too long, we'll have a plan all together, and I think...
What's the matter?
Excuse the admiration of a connoisseur. Watson says I know nothing of art, but it's mere jealousy. But this really is a fine portrait.
I'm glad to hear you say so. I don't claim to know much about these sorts of things. I'm a better judge of steer and cattle. I really don't know how you find the time.
Well, I know what's good when I see it, and I see it now. This is a Neller, I swear.
Well spotted.
A family portrait, I presume. Do you know the subject's name?
Well, you have a right to know about it. This is the wicked Hugo, the cause of all this mischief. The Hound of the Baskervilles. We're not likely to forget him.
He seems a meek-mannered man enough, but I dare say there's a lurking devil in his eyes. I imagine him to be more of a robust person.
No doubt he's authenticity for the name and date, 1647, printed on the back of the canvas.
Very good. Well, Sir Henry, please retire. There's matters that Watson and I would like to discuss.
You are an enigma, Mr. Holmes.
I am and always will be as clear as day. Good night. Watson, what do you make of this portrait?
That's a nice frame.
Really, Watson? Does it look like anyone you know?
Something Sir Henry about the jaw.
Just a suggestion. Does it resemble anyone else?
Heavens. Stapleton.
You see it now. Watson, I have been trained to examine faces and not just their trimmings. It's one of the most elementary branches of criminal investigator to see through a disguise.
But this is marvelous. It might be his portrait.
It certainly is an interesting throwback. It's both physical and spiritual. This man is a Baskerville. There is no doubt of that.
Designs upon the succession.
We our nets as helpless as one of his own butterflies. I mean, a pin, a cork, and a card. We can add him to the Baker Street collection.
Your breakfast, sir?
Thank you very much. As you are.
She's in still grey shops.
Tell him to take as much time as you need.
Thank you.
What's in the thing? The nets are all in place and the drag is about to begin. Before too long, we'll know if he's caught our strong lead or pike or whether he's escaped through the meshes.
You've been out on the moor already this morning.
I have. I sent a telegram from Grimpen to Princetown regarding the death of Selden. I think I can promise none of you will be in trouble regarding the matter.
What's the next move?
Speak with Sir Henry.
Mr. Holmes, you look like a general planning a war with your chief of staff.
That is exactly what we were doing. Watson here was asking for orders, wasn't he?
Yeah, so do I.
Very good. Am I right in thinking that you are engaged to dine with your friends the Stapletons tonight?
Yeah, I should hope that you'd join us as well. They are hospitable people. I'm sure they'd be glad to see you.
I'm afraid that Watson and I must head back to London.
To London?
Yes, I think we'll be much more use there at the present juncture.
I thought you were going to see me through this business. The moor and the hall aren't exactly pleasant places to be when one's all alone.
Do not fear, my friend. You must do exactly as I tell you. Tell your friends the Stapletons. The Watson and I have had to go back to London on some urgent business, but we will endeavour to return back to Devonshire before too long. Will you give them this message?
If you insist upon it.
There is no alternative, I assure you.
When do you desire to go?
I think immediately after some breakfast, we'll head to Coombe Tracy. Watson will leave his things here, and they promise that he'll return to you. Watson, send a note to Stapleton, telling him you can't go to him.
Yeah, I'm in half a mind to come to London with you. I don't see why I should stay here all alone.
Because, Sir Henry, you gave me your word.
And I'll do as you say.
Very good. There is one more direction. You will drive to Merripit House, but then send back your trap. Let the Stapletons know that you intend to walk her.
To walk across the moor.
Yes,
The one thing that you told me not to do.
this time you may do it with safety. It's in my courage and your nerve, and I know that you will do it, but it must be done.
I'll do as you say.
And as you value your life, only walk on the straight path that links Merripit House and Grimpen Road as your natural way home.
I'll do just as you instruct.
Very good. Then I think possibly after some breakfast we'll head straight off to Tracy, Watson. I want to be back in London before this afternoon.
Barrymore, please, fix some breakfast for Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Yes, sir.
It's my instincts I'm trusting you, Mr. Holmes. Don't you fail me.
Do not fear, sir. All the pieces are in place and we'll soon find our culprit in checkmate.
And the hell?
We don't have an explanation yet, but trust me, one exists. Good.
Stand by this program. I thought you were deceiving Stapleton. You said you would be leaving today.
I did. I deceived Sir Henry also. Watson, it's all part of the plan. But, we must make haste and get to Coombe Tracy before too long.
I understand.
Also, Watson, on the way, while Lestrade, tell him to bring an unsigned warrant and tell him to arrive around 5:40-ish. He's one of his best professionals. He will be of assistance. It's all coming to a point, Watson.
What are we doing with this?
We are here investigating the circumstances which surround I've come prepared to do so, madam. Here you'll find photographs of the couple taken in York 4 years ago. It's endorsed Mr. and Mrs. Van Bleur, but you'll recognize him and her if you know her by sight. Attached are 3 written statements by trustworthy witnesses of the Van Bleurs when they kept St. Oliver's private. Read them and tell me if you doubt the identity of these people.
Mr. Holmes, this man has offered me marriage on condition that I can get a divorce from my husband. He's lied to me, the villain, in every conceivable way. And why? I imagined that it was for all my own sake, but now I see that I was nothing but a tool in his hands. Ask me what you like, and there is nothing which I shall hold back. One thing I swear to is that when I wrote the letter to Sir Charles, I never dreamed of any harm to come to him. He's my kindest friend.
I entirely believe you, madam, and no doubt the recital of these events must be very painful to you. Why don't I tell you what I know on the matter, and you can correct me on any material mistake. The letter was suggested to you by the state.
Dictated.
And the subject of this letter was regarding your divorce and the financial situation which Sir Charles was to help. And then he dissuaded you to keep this appointment.
He said it should hurt his self-respect should any other man pay for such an object, and that though he was a poor man himself, he would devote his very last penny into removing the obstacles which divided us.
Seems like a very consistent character. And then you heard nothing of the death until you read it in the paper.
No.
He made you promise to say nothing of the appointment.
So the death was a very mysterious one, and I should be suspected if the facts came out. It frightened me into silence.
But you had your suspicions.
I knew him. But if he had kept faith with me, I should have done so with him.
I think you've had a very fortunate escape, Miss Lyon. You've been walking for some time along the edge of precipice. I must thank you for your honesty. We must go now. No doubt Watson will be in touch very soon. Watson, this is it. We have him. And soon I will have a single narrative to connect this incredible course of events. Students of criminology will talk about the analogous events which happened in Dodno, in Little Russia in the year 66. Of course, the answer to it. But this case presents several opportunities which are entirely its own. Although we do not have our man, I think that before too long he will be in our grasp.
Three-hour train journey just to be stood up at the station. Sending a boy with a note telling me to catch a cab to the middle of nowhere. Really, Holmes? Really? Would have thought the good doctor would have meant your way by now. And they are. You better have something good.
Oh, this is the biggest thing for years, Lestrade. I think it would do you well to take the London fog out of your lungs. Take a nice deep breath of this Dartmoor air in. You've never been to Devonshire, have you, Lestrade? No doubt you will not forget your first visit. Are you armed?
I have my trousers, I have a hip pocket, I have something in it.
Watson and I are armed for emergency.
Where my patient's mighty fine about this, Mr. Holmes. What's your game?
The waiting game is wrong.
Well, this is a cheery place, isn't it? See the lights of a house ahead of us.
Now that's Merrypit House. Watson, you've been inside the house, have you not?
Yes.
Can you tell me the location of the rooms? The one on the end with the lattice windows, what's that?
I think they're the kitchen windows.
And what's the one further on, the one which shines so brightly?
Certainly the dining room.
Well, the blinds are up. Why don't you creep forward and tell me what's going on? For heaven's sake, do not let them know they're being watched.
I just about enough of this, Mr. Holmes. If you don't tell me what's going on.
I must request that you do not speak above a whisper.
Look, why are we here?
Look, these rocks will make an admirable screen.
We're just gonna wait here.
No, we need to wait here for our little ambush. Now, quick, someone's coming, Lestrade.
There were only 2 men in the room, but Sir Henry Stapleton. They sat with their profiles towards me on either side of a round table. Both of them were smoking cigars, and coffee and wine were in front of them. Stapleton was talking with animation, but the baronet looked pale and distrait. Perhaps the thought of that lonely walk across that ill-omened moor was weighing heavily upon his mind. As I watched them, Stapleton rose and left the room, while Sir Henry filled his glass again, leaning back at his cigar, puffing at his cigar, leaning back in his chair. I heard the creak of a door and the crisp sound of boots upon gravel. The steps passed along the path on the other side of the wall under which I crouched. Looking over, I saw the baronet. I saw the naturalist pause at the door of an outhouse in the corner of the orchard. A key turned in the lock. As he passed in, a curious scuffling noise came from within. He was only a minute or so inside, and as he passed me and re-entered the house, I saw him rejoin his guest.
Oh, Watson, the lady isn't there, you say?
No, she's not.
Where could she be? There's no other lights on apart from the ones in the kitchen.
I don't think where she is.
Watson, the fog. It's creeping onto us.
That's serious.
It's very serious indeed, Lestrade. It's the one thing that can disarrange my plans. Where is he? It's nearly 10 o'clock. In a quarter of an hour, we won't be able to see the path. In half an hour, we won't be able to see our hands in front of our faces.
Shall we move further back up on high ground?
No, we cannot move. We need to stay here and make an ambush. Quick, someone's coming. Do not move! Watson!
What the hell was that?
That was a hound of the Baskervilles.
It's real.
So, Mr. Stapleton would have you believe, a cleverly disguised costume, aided by the darkness of night, is enough to fool a fearful mind, Sir Henry.
The shimmering.
Phosphorus.
They're very cunning of him. The dog was used to hunt down its victims, but this costume was made to incapacitate him. I am sorry to put you through such a fright. We came prepared for a scrap, but the fog had beaten us to it.
Saved my life.
Yes, having first endangered it. Are you strong?
Give me another mouthful of that brandy. What should we do now?
Well, that's enough for you tonight, Sir Henry. You need to go back to Baskerville Hall. Right, we must move on. There's no chance of us finding him at the house. It's 1,000 to 1.
But we must be thorough.
Yes, we will, Watson. We will.
The one and only Sherlock Holmes. What a mind you have. They say miracles are possible, but we have the great Sherlock Holmes to make modern and familiar things supernatural and causeless. So it is we ensconce ourselves in unknown fears. We should submit ourselves to simple science.
There, who is it, Watson?
Sir, it's Stapleton.
In here, Lestrade, your brandy flask.
She appears to have suffered from ill usage and exhaustion.
Is he safe? Has he escaped?
You will not escape us long, ma'am.
No, no, I don't think my husband, Sir Henry, is he safe?
Yes, he's safe.
Oh, see how he's treated me, the villain! But this is nothing. No, it's my mind and soul that he has tortured and defiled. I can endure it all, everything. A life of solitude, ill usage, as long as I could still cling to the hope that I had his love. But now I know in that too I've been his dupe and his tool.
Sir Henry, you should have returned home. It may not have been safe for you
Watson.
here.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I tried to warn you, I did, I tried. My letter on the moor, I tried. I'm so sorry. Can you forgive me?
There's nothing to forgive.
If you bear him no goodwill, madam, help us now find your husband. If you've ever aided him in evil, help us now so atone.
is but one place he can have fled. There's an old tin mine at the heart of the mire. That's where he kept his dog and where he made plans to have refuge. That's where he would fly.
But no one can find their way through the mire tonight. The fog is too thick.
He might find his way in, but never out. How can he see the guiding ones tonight? We planned them together, he and I, to mark the pathway through the mire. Oh, if I'd have plucked them out today, then indeed you'd have them at your mercy.
Seems you may have gotten your wish. Even the wily Jack Stapleton cannot find his way through the Grimpen Mire tonight. Watson, I told you in London, and I'll tell you again now, never before was a more dangerous man than the one who is lying yonder.
Someone told me what on earth is going on here!
Watson, fill him in.
Yes, come. See, it all began. We got an unexpected visit from Dr. Mortimer.
Collect skulls!
Oh, Bernard. What?
What's going to happen now?
What do you mean?
Everything changed.
Yeah. Better. Staples, I love you. Right?
I know that I deserve your love.
Your lifetime of chances to hurt me. I'll never let a day go past when you feel unloved.
Ah, so you've done it then. Everything has unfolded very neatly. But how? How did you do it?
I think we best wait for Sir Henry. He'll have many of the same questions you do.
Here he is, I think. Is he coming through? Yes, he is.
Ah, Sir Henry. Please take a seat. And Mrs. Stapleton. Or should I say Mrs. Van Blurth. I trust you've recovered from these recent events. This whole course of events was put together by a man they called Stapleton. And it was exceedingly simple, yet to us it seemed exceedingly complicated. I've had the opportunity to speak with Miss Stapleton, and I think that I've covered every aspect so entirely. There are no secrets left to us. If you wish to delve more deeply into this matter, head into my indexes of cases and look under the heading B. Watson, I think, after some severe weeks of work, we may return back to London.
Can't help but agree. Sir Henry, I'm truly glad that you've found happiness.
Thank you, Watson.
Mrs. Lyons, it's been a pleasure to meet you. I trust, though, that in the future you'll be more cautious about the men with which you deal.
Amen to that.
I would hate to disappoint my father.
Darling, I'm truly sorry about your brother. I hope you have the fortitude to carry on.
We'll never forget him. We will recover.
Dr. Watson, Mr. Hound.
Brother in profession.
Doctor?
My friend. Doctor.
Next stop, London.
Ah, Baker Street, I think we've earned a rest.
I have more pleasant issues at hand. I have a box for the ballot. If I can say you to be ready for 6 o'clock, we'll go to Martini's for a spot of dinner.
I hate Les Huguenots.
Keep them close. No people. No people. They're almost there. Take my hand. You can open your eyes. Here we are.
Where?
You don't recognize this place?
It's the moor. Each round is like the last.
This is the place where you and I first met.
No, it's not.
What?
No, it's not. It was further south of here.
Are you sure?
Yes, it was much closer to the hall.
Well, this police will have to do.
Do for what?
They're statements, look. You marry me?
Oh,
Well, I know it's a little sharp.
no, Henry, look!
What? Stand back.
Oh, it's Jack! He didn't sink into the mire after all. Oh, what happened to him?
Well, from the looks of his wounds, he was attacked by a giant dog.
He found he actually found something from it. Yeah. Yeah, he did.
So fucking cold.
Yeah.
What did I to frozen over?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was